If you were wondering what is the best way you can make money today, your first $1,000, $5,000, you're absolutely going to love this. We're putting together 4 of our most popular podcasts where we break down all the different business models that you could possibly do, pros, cons. We've done some of them. We've interviewed over 100 people. We give our thoughts, our feedback. After you watch this, you'll be able to have a way to make your first $1,000 to $5,000 in the way that makes the most sense to you. Without further ado, let's get into it. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment podcast. Today, Drew had an idea that we're going to do, so he's going to tell you what we're doing today.
Yeah. So overall, I think we're going to do a series. We're going to start a series. I don't know if this is going to last 3 episodes, 5 episodes, 10 episodes. It depends how much you guys like it. But we talked to all these people, and I think it'd be good to summarize a lot of this stuff that we go over. So our idea is we group these business models in little small categories. So like today, for example, we're going to do UGC style businesses. I would say content businesses, but I just talked to John about content is not the best way to put it because this is content, Twitter's content, Instagram's content. That's not what we're talking about today. It's just going to be simply businesses anybody can start just making content, and this is going to be part 1 of the series. And we're going to try to do this with we'll do e-com businesses, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to go over what it is, the pros of it, the cons of it, the upside, who's it for, things like that, and we can just kind of riff off there. So I hope you guys enjoy this kind of series we're doing instead of just me and John just kind of throwing something together, riffing on each other. Sometimes that's good, but I want to do something that's a little more structured, and we're in the midst of hiring an editor and that type of thing. Maybe we can get some good clips. Maybe we can get some good growth off this. So we will start with the UGC businesses topic. Do you want to explain what UGC businesses are? Or you want me to do a little explanation? How do you want to do it?
I'll do it. So UGC, I'm doing this like every day. So UGC content is basically one of the easiest ways, I think, to get started. Easier than Amazon, easier than Walmart, like doesn't require any capital. So basically what you do is if you go on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, you're scrolling through, you're going to see an ad or a piece of organic content. And a great example would be probably like, I guess like a mom, like get ready with me, right? She's doing it. She's putting like maybe this phone in her bag, this water bottle in her bag, and this water bottle is paying for her to put that in her bag, but it looks kind of like organic, kind of like in your head, you're like, that's how I get ready in the morning. It kind of clicks and you just kind of get connected. Maybe you're like, oh, I need a new water bottle. That one looks cool. Or whatever. It could be makeup. It's for everything and anything. So basically what it does is I would make a video about this water bottle, maybe using it at the gym, maybe using it working at my desk or outside camping, whatever. And then I send that to the brand. I don't post it on my social media. Has nothing. I don't have to have a following. I don't have to have anything. The brand is going to take that. They're going to use it for marketing. They're going to use it on their website, however they want to use it, and they're going to pay me a fee. And the nice part about it is a lot of it is raw. You don't have to edit. You will have to stitch some stuff together, maybe some B-roll, stuff like that. Really just depends on the brand. But that is kind of the gist, and a lot of things are run. That's why some of the models we're going to talk about, TikTok Shop, AIP, and just kind of doing UGC. I think UGC is the core of all of those business models.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so a basic thing, you make content, face or faceless. You make money via advertisement fees, like you said, or commissions, which is more so in the case of TikTok Shop, even though people do get standardized like salary type thing. And who's it for? It's for people with low capital or people who are uniquely entertaining, that type of thing.
Sure.
I'd say if you have $2 million starting a UGC thing, probably is not the best idea.
Yeah.
Unless well, actually, but that plays more into the content thing.
Yeah.
And it's probably, I was looking at ChatGPT before this of like, how can we structure how we talk about this? And it was like, how does it rank in terms of hype? And I'm pretty sure this is number 1 in terms of hype. This is like, most of the advertising you see, most of the get rich quick stuff these days is the UGC style stuff. And the reason that happens, just a side tangent, is because that's where all the money is. All these business models, and I'll reiterate this point through episodes, but the reason that the UGC has all the hype is because all the advertising money's going there and all these companies are willing to just dish out money. We had an episode with Rick and he was talking about how good Amazon was when it started because they needed more users to sell on their platform. So they just give out stuff. What not doing? They just give out free stuff. That's what the UGC stuff is, but it's just constant because there's always new brands giving out free stuff. They never end until they can like see that it's not worth it anymore, which would become like a massive consensus. So that's another little overview as well. I unfortunately I don't know as much about the specifics of these models. Although I know AIP, I'm sure I could teach a course on it almost from who we've interviewed and talking to you. And then TikTok Shop, I've took a lot of courses. I understand. I've done some videos. UGC, I'm very out of my depth there. I know that people bring up those things. Maybe we can link those videos below of
Yeah.
like UGC interviews we've done. I don't understand it really, like you can do Fiverr and stuff like that, but we'll just talk about the general gist of it. But we can start with pros, and also too, I think this is good for me and you to do because I've done so many different models. You've done so many different models.
Yeah.
You currently do this. I currently do not. I'm currently not the biggest fan of this, and you are a very big fan. So this gives like literally two opposing viewpoints on stuff to where you guys just sort out what we say and you decide what to go with this. So it's not like me and John are here shilling you something. You know, we
Yeah, we have
don't
nothing to
we
sell.
don't even agree probably on a lot of the different stuff on all these models we're going to talk about. So this makes it very unbiased, I think, and why I'm kind of excited to do this. It's just going to give you a bunch of different perspectives. So we'll start with pros. What do you think are the pros of this business model?
So, pro number one, you don't need any capital to start. Most businesses take capital to start, whether you buy, and not just buying a coaching program. So, most of the things that you hear now, get a mentor, get a coaching program. That's step number one. So, number one, that's going to give you capital. And then you get the coach, and they're like, okay, you have to spend money on inventory. You have to set up an Amazon account. You need to, like, it's a whole thing. This, you don't need any of that, which is a big pro. Two, I feel like it's no risk. It's just your time. Now, depending on what else you're doing, right? If you're short on time, this might not be the best business model for you. But I think the fact that no risk, if I get kicked off the influencer program, that sucks for me. But I also don't have $50,000 worth of inventory there. Now that I have to figure out how to remove or move somewhere else, it's just it's over. I have to figure out what to do next. So I think those are probably two of the biggest pros. And a third, you could do it on your time. Like if you work a 9 to 5, you could easily wake up an hour earlier, make 10 influencer videos, upload them. If you don't have time to upload them on your lunch, after work. It's very flexible. You don't really have to. Now, if you do maybe UGC, you're going to have to hit deadlines and stuff like that. But in terms of AIP, TikTok Shop, all those models, you could do them on your time. And it's very flexible if you have a 9 to 5, you have kids, or whatever else.
Yep. And if you think of more pros as we go along, you can just add them
Yeah.
in there as well. You kind of took most of mine, but my number one's the very low barrier to entry. I mean, that's like if you have an iPhone and you have stuff, and I gave the like example of one of the podcasts, like if you're homeless and you have an iPhone, you can break into somebody's house, do your videos, and leave. Like that is literally how simple the thing is. So as long as you have stuff, or you can get access to any kind of stuff, but you don't even need stuff, you can apply for stuff. If you just make some videos, you just need an iPhone, which is I've never seen a business model with that easy barrier to entry. Even with Amazon, eBay, that kind of thing, you have to be able to print labels. You need a printer. You
Yeah.
have to have money because you have to buy the inventory. And there's you need packaging. You need that type of stuff. So even though that is like number one barrier to entry, reselling is low. This is even lower, which I think is why it's all the hype, which is good. Another thing that I like about this is you can make money on day one. Now, the
Mhm.
likelihood of you making money on day one, almost impossible. But you could make a TikTok shop video and get one sale and make $6. You could make an AIP video and throughout the course of the day, let's say you find something with no other videos on the thing, maybe somebody buys it and you get lucky and you get your sale. And with UGC, maybe you send your first email, the brand really likes you, you have some kind of portfolio of a video you've made for fun, they like you, they give you $500. That I don't know if there's many things that you can do to make money on day one aside from going to the Goodwill, picking something up and selling on Facebook Marketplace. But even that, that's hard. So that I find that really, really cool. And it helps people stay on with it. It helps people not quit because you need the dopamine. This is like the hardest part of all these models throughout this series that we're going to talk about. If you don't get the dopamine, you don't get something started, it's really hard to just suffer for a long time. Which this can turn into that. You can suffer for a long time, I believe, but that's not a pro, so I'm not going to talk about that. Another pro for me personally is no customer interaction. I'm not somebody who likes to interact with a customer in any way, really. So I know that with this stuff, dude, you just fire videos out into the ether. You do get probably hate comments on TikTok Shop, that type of
Yeah.
thing, but If you stay away from that, which you just do the AIP and the UGC, you don't have any interaction with customers. You just fire stuff off and then you let it be, which is good because I think a lot of people don't want the hate for one.
Yeah.
Two, they don't want to learn how to deal with people. Customer service is a job. So you'd have to deal with customers. Even the little bit you do on eBay and Amazon, it is annoying. When somebody goes, "Hey, this came in broke," it's like, yeah, man, it wasn't broke when I sent it. I packaged it well. That kind of stuff, that's annoying. So I like that part of it too. There's no customer interaction. And that's really all the pros I can think of, except for the ones you said. If there's any more you can think of, though.
I thought of one more you were talking about. I think one of the biggest pros, which a lot of people, I think, just to push back on the UGC thing. So I would say TikTok Shop, AIP, no customer service. Like if you're doing UGC, like you have to please the brand. If I do a brand deal on Amazon, there's a bit, hey, can you do this? So but if you're just doing TikTok Shop, AIP, your own shit, like no issue. But I think one of the biggest things is you could be yourself. There's no acting required. You don't have to be an influencer. I'm in a couple groups. You see people who are 70-year-old grandmas going viral on TikTok, making content for their grandkids. Like you don't have to look a certain way. And that's what these brands are looking for, right? This water bottle company wants me to do it. They want Drew to do it because we're different ages. We look different. They want a mom to do it. Maybe they want a grandma to do it because every time they serve the ad to a different demo, a demo me holding this water bottle is not going to work for a grandma because they don't know they don't care. They're not going to the gym. They're not going camping. So I think that's one of the big benefits too, is you could just really lean into your personality, even if you're like, oh, this video is so stupid or this video is so cringe. I can't tell you how many like interviews I've watched of people who are like, I thought that was the dumbest video. I felt like an idiot. Like I didn't, and then it goes viral. So I think the idea of like you don't have to be an influencer, you really just have to be yourself and just be like, I always tell people for AIP, it's just like, why'd you buy the product? Like I bought this microphone because I do a podcast. The podcast sounds really good. I like the fact that it could be plugged in. It has a nice little stand here. It has a long USB plug-in. Perfect. I could take it off the stand. If you're looking for a great microphone, boom. And that's kind of what they're looking for. They want to see what it looks like, what it feels like. You don't have to be, I don't really know much about microphones, but like what I just did would probably be a video I'd upload to Amazon for this microphone.
Yep. I think another thing too that I missed is that there is a compounding effect on your skills. Obviously, that's in everything, but there's this compounding from what I've talked to and who I've talked to with stuff that once you start getting these UGC deals and get some of them, your portfolio grows, you get more, which that is when we're talking about that, I do think it's kind of like teetering on the edge of freelance, which is like something else. We're going to do a series on freelance stuff. So maybe UGC will be thrown in there a little bit because it is different than AIP and TikTok Shop, the UGC specifically. Because like you said, you are like you're kind of working for a company. It's like a small freelance job where the AIP and the TikTok Shop literally not at all. You just pick a product and you rip it. So maybe it's not even fair to group them all in together, but I do think they're all, somewhat similar and require the same type of stuff. But yeah, there's a compounding effect with it. And with TikTok Shop as well. The more good videos you make, the more brands reach out to you, the better you can get, fast selling items. And you learn what makes a good item, what makes a good video, and then it compounds from there. I don't know, there's not as much compounding with AIP. It's just more put in the work, and then eventually you reap your dividends. It's literally dividends. It's kind of like how it is. So you just buy the stock, which is make the videos, then you get your dividends, which is your money over time. But with the other two things, there's this like compounding effect. Are there any other pros you can think of? Or if not, we'll move on to the other stuff.
I think that's it. If another one pops up. But I think those are kind of we probably did like 5 or 7. I think those are pretty 5 to 7 strong arguments for the model.
I just got a thought too. You could just throw this transcript in ChatGPT and make a little PDF guide on these models. This is something you've talked about doing this before, doing the email list. All right, guys. So if we're not lazy, now this is no guarantee we might not get this done, but if me and John are really on this, you can go to the description and maybe he'll have some email sign up where you can download a guide that puts all this stuff off. So we might do that afterwards, but don't hold us to it. I don't know how many things we said we'll do on this podcast and we haven't done, so I don't know. We'll try. Okay, so moving on to the cons, which I like this just because I like to poke holes in everything. So that's fun for me. But I want to start with your cons because I feel like you're more, you're in touch with it more than me.
Yeah. So some cons I'm starting to see more and more people are getting into it. So we're seeing a lot of course creators coming from Amazon, FBA, probably their sales for their Amazon FBA stuff aren't as great. They're starting to come over to the influencer program. They're partnering with other people in the space and kind of launching courses or making little groups. So they're going to push a lot of people probably into the Amazon program. One counterpoint to that I was actually DMing with someone. I'm not gonna say who they were, but basically I kind of said that to them, and they were just like, "You have to realize that most people are lazy and they just won't do it." Anyway, so it's a non-issue. I think kind of I told you this probably like 2 3 weeks ago. If you type into Google Trends, if you do like AIP, Amazon FBA, Walmart, TikTok Shop, and Whatnot, TikTok Shop is shooting up, Whatnot is shooting up, AIP is kind of flat, Amazon FBA is going down, Walmart's just kind of blah, which I think is interesting. So obviously more and more people are looking for TikTok Shop, Whatnot stuff. Um, so that's one con. More people are getting into it. Two, it's getting a little bit more complicated where you got to be a bit more selective. Like I'm using software now to identify better opportunities. Where so if you do AIP, there's something called the upper carousel, the lower carousel. When you're on the upper carousel, when you go to a product, let's say you look at this water bottle, there are going to be like 4 or 5 images, and then there'll be like almost this video section. If you click that, there'll be review videos on that. That's upper carousel. And then if you scroll down the Amazon page, usually right above or below the review section, that's lower carousel. So you want to go on products that don't have a lot of influencer videos. So there's software like Viral View, which I've used a lot since I started. That's super helpful to identify opportunities, how many videos are on there. They give you a viral score. So that's just super helpful. And I think more and more you're going to need like a software, most likely, to kind of get going. Um, the third con, it's work. I think any business is work. It just kind of depends, right? I made 3,200 videos. Like that's work to do. I mean, it's a lot, and that's just not making the videos. That's uploading them. That's sending them to the brand. That's tagging them. That's making thumbnails. That's they're getting all this stuff shipped to your house, getting rid of all those boxes, opening them up, like keeping track of all this stuff. It is a business, like it's a business. So I think those probably would be three of the cons in my mind. A fourth might be AI, but I don't know. Amazon's really cracking down. There used to be a lot of AI review videos, but they seem to figure out how to kind of crack down on some of those.
Yeah, that AI stuff. I feel like that this is one. Okay, we can put this back on the pros for 1 second. I think the AI stuff, it's gonna be really hard to use that with this stuff. Now the counter to that, I guess, is, and maybe this is the con, is that companies can use AI videos instead of your videos. And the
Yeah,
more realistic that gets, the more it pushes people out. And then if they can generate unlimited AI videos, then the people are screwed. But I think that's really far away. And there is this like human S thing that people bring that AI is not going to bring. So I do think this is a bit AI proof, at least to the foreseeable future. But the
I would
recent
agree.
AI videos that have came out, I don't know, man. Maybe we're not even that far away. That VO3 stuff, that's pretty crazy. And we turned ourselves into babies. They made an ad,
Yeah.
so we're probably not that far away from having like AI human type things. But
I
as
think
at the moment, no.
I think more of the AI stuff will lean towards Joe Rogan saying he likes this water
Yeah,
bottle, not some random like make something that looks like John drinking this water bottle. It's going to be more targeted at celebrities or like someone who looks like Joe Rogan, where at quick glance on a really like, oh, Joe Rogan drinks out of that water bottle. I think it'll be more of that than necessarily like trying to come after like the average day person.
yeah, somebody that looks like him. That's pretty good. Because I was gonna say it's like highly illegal to do that, but if you have some, I saw Hormozy talking about this too. they made this like cartoon person for their brand, and he had like long hair, and it was kind of a cartoon of Hormozy to promote the nose strips, and he was like, we're suing him because like it looks too much like me, man. Like I didn't want to promote your brand, now you're doing this. And he talks about the lawsuit and stuff. So I could definitely see you just have a bald guy with like some tattoos, maybe it's not exactly the same, so they can claim, that's not you, that's just our like character. Yeah, I could see that being a bit of an issue. But so I guess that does go with cons. So I'll talk about some that I got down. One, it's highly dependent on the platform. Yeah, that you have like a
Mhm.
high platform risk, and especially if you're not creative. So like if you, I think where I've seen this, it branches into three different things. One, if you're not very like social salesy, it's going to be hard to make the UGC work because you're going to have to reach out to brands.
Mhm.
Like there's a sales aspect to this. You have to sell yourself. You have to negotiate deals. We've had people on here that talk about they offer me 100 and I said no, it's got to be five, and they get the five. And there's probably a lot of other people who are offered 60 and they're like, yeah, I'll take 60. And the brand's like, well, we'll do 40 for the next one. Then you get zeroed out to where you're just working for nothing. So I think that's sales, that type of stuff is UGC. TikTok shop, you just can't make it if you're not creative and unique. It's just
Yeah.
impossible. You can't just spam. People spam hundreds of videos. Yeah, one might pop, but there is some creative uniqueness to it. And then with the AIP, the installation there is you have to work like a ton of work. And trust me, John's made this many videos. I made one, then I go, I'm not doing it. It's too much work. It's just a lot of time. Like you don't even understand how much time it is. And if you don't have the vision and you don't really believe in what you're doing, you're gonna quit. And that's I think that's large with all of them. Like these, that was one of my last cons. So I was skip to that. Upfront time with all these models or all these like UGC type stuff is so much work and time. There's no money, but that's what happens. When there's no money, you have to spend your time. There's no free lunch out here. So I think a lot of people will be put off by that. But if you can like eat shit long enough, you will reap the rewards. But the upfront time where you could make money on the first day, it could take you like literally 6 months to make money. Because what if you for one, think about the advantage you have coming into the AIP stuff. You know what products are, Keepa, like what would
Mhm.
sell. Some people are going to get on there, dude, and just like literally when you say pick up a water bottle, they're going to pick up a water bottle. They're going to, why didn't it sell? Well, the sales ranks
Yeah.
14 million. No one's ever bought the thing. So there's a learning curve with that too. And then TikTok shop, not only you have to be creative and unique and fast cuts, you have to figure out how to edit that. I talked to a woman, it was like a
Mm.
family friend, probably I don't know, like 6 months ago at this point. And she was like, how do I do TikTok? Do you know how to do that? And I was like, yeah, you just make videos and go. She's like, yeah, but how do I even make the videos? And I was like, oh my goodness. Okay. So we are a bubble here because
Mhm.
it's pretty easy to integrate when you know tech, you know that stuff. She did not even know how to make a video, dude, not edit a video. She didn't know how to like, I go here. What do I do after it's done? Like, how do I get done with the video? Just these crazy questions. I was like, you got to YouTube this. She's like, I've YouTube. I can't find it. I'm like, yeah, I guess there probably isn't a lot of YouTube videos of like how to create a TikTok video on your phone.
True.
So that there is that thing too. So you have to beat the skill gap and then you have to like get creative or put in the work. That stuff's not super easy. So the upfront time, it's great. And I talked to somebody today because I was like brainstorming ideas off someone, and they said they think that this is the best possible thing anyone can do right now. But you have to be able to eat shit for a long time, and they were not able to. They said as long as you can eat it and you don't care to waste months and months of your life on stuff that you don't even know what's going to happen, then it's going to be good for you. Like you just have to be willing to do that. But if you're not willing to do that, you're never going to make it work because you're not going to make one video and make $1 million. Just literally impossible. So the time that is a big con for me. Um, it's highly saturated, but you kind of talked about that. But I think
Mhm.
there are things that will push people to outperform. So, like for example, you have all these videos and you have these like systems down to make these videos fast. So like my one video I made that was 10 seconds long probably took more time than your 3-minute video because you
Mm.
understand like the
Yeah.
quickness. You could always hire, but you haven't even outsourced anything. So you just do it all yourself and it's working. But I think that, you know, if you don't have the systems, anybody can just make these videos. You just go to the top products on Amazon for AIP. For TikTok shop, there's just so many people posting content, like guys spamming 30, 50 videos a day. That's obviously going to make something saturated. And then for the UGC, I don't know that I think that's probably the most unique, especially the guys we've talked to, because who's the guy that's um, who's the big UGC guy that we've had on here twice? Vision.
Vision,
Yeah.
Kyle. That was probably
Yeah.
the most recent last
Yeah,
one.
those guys do have a uniqueness like Kyle does these health videos, and then
Hmm.
Vision is like very entertaining. And I watched some of his videos, and they're like super, super high quality. So
And he's a
that's
really
something.
good editor, which
Okay,
helps.
yeah. So that gives you a uniqueness, and that stuff I guess can play with TikTok Shop, and there I don't want to go too deep into this, but is uniqueness you can provide to AIP from what we've heard from people too. So there is a
Yeah.
way that you can, we have people that just like spam buy Airbnbs, but also we had someone that told us after the pod a very unique strategy. So, and that's just one. There's probably some unique strategies you can implement to keep it less saturated. But I think overall, it's just a highly saturated type of thing, and it will get that way because of the low barrier to entry. But yeah, and
I have
then
one more con.
go ahead.
So another con, you mentioned it, but not this month. A lot of people felt it. Is the platform dependence. So Amazon changed. No one really knows what happened, but it almost seems that they removed the bottom carousel. So there was just top carousels. So a lot of people's my commissions were like the worst they've been since the beginning of the year. This month on the on-site commission, my creator connections commission is the highest it's been. So there's like an offset there, but again, you're dependent on Amazon to keep these carousels. Or there have been ones where like it used to just been the top carousel was 5 videos, and then they tried doing 20 videos to the top carousel. So like you're always kind of at the mercy of the platform. And I guess that's another con or pro for like UGC. It's like if you're working with the brand and like TikTok is like you can't advertise, it's not your problem. You already got paid for the content.
Yep. And TikTok too is more platform dependent than even Amazon because they ban people all the time.
Yeah,
Like
for
I
sure.
hear more suspension stories on TikTok than anything. And you
Yeah,
have a
for sure.
literal platform risk that the platform gets shut down. So you don't have that with other things. But yeah, so the platform risk is high on that. And then, oh yeah, my last con, and I've talked about this on the pod multiple times, and we'll see if this plays out correctly. But I really agree with what Steve Roll said when we talked to him. I think that I don't know how long this stuff is sustainable because it's just so much wasted money. Like these brands are not getting an ROI a lot of times paying these influencers, and I don't know when they're all. It is a bubble. This UGC stuff is a bubble. So when will the bubble pop, or how big can it get? I mean, it can get big. Like we've seen some crazy stuff happening. Like, dude, crypto's a thing where everybody's bidding on nothing, and it's going to millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars market cap on nothing. So there's a lot of capital that flows in there on just literal gambling on vaporware. So the bubble can get bigger, but I wonder how big it can get before it pops. Of like people paying $1,000 a UGC video, and then these brands being like, "What are we doing?" Like that, we don't need it.
Mm.
We can't. Well, I would be pay someone that much money, or like the AIP commissions getting cut to like 0.1% because it's like, how much are these videos actually doing this? And or is Amazon paying you guys, or is the brand paying you
So
guys?
Amazon pays. So there's two
Okay.
versions of it where basically creator connections, the brand they determine the percentage they want to pay. So they're paying the 10%. Not 100% how that works on the back end. Like, is Amazon giving them half of that, or like, or they're paying you literally 10%? And then Amazon, they will pay you for the on-site. So if you make a video on the listing, you watch it, someone buys it, you get the commission. So Amazon's paying that out. I mean, maybe they do lower it. I don't know, but I don't know. I feel like they generate so much money from it. It's like peanuts that they're paying out anyway.
Yeah, but wouldn't the money that they're generating from it, isn't that a tough metric? Like, what? How do they know that that specific video is bringing in sales? Because yes, they can watch 30 seconds of it or whatever, but is there a direct one to one of like, for example, like advertising, like a Facebook ad? If someone watches a minute of your ad and then goes to the website and buys the product, it is 100% correlation that brought the person to the website. But on that, is it no, is that specific video what made someone buy the product? Because I might go on Amazon
Yeah.
and watch a video that I'm probably already going to buy, and then I just watch it and I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going to buy it. But it didn't have like really a huge effect on me buying or not buying the product. It's just I was probably going to buy it. I saw the video, watched the video. That's where I think the metrics get tough, and where I'm like, when are they going to think, okay, oh, we have enough videos that we only allow videos on items that don't have 20 videos. I don't know the average AIP thing.
So I think the only counter to that, so basically, I don't know how they do it, but like each of my videos has a unique URL.
Okay.
So like they could definitely, they either cookie or they know whatever. I think I agree with you. They're like, okay, we have enough videos, but products get launched
All the
every
time.
day. So whether that's private label, Sony's gonna make a new pair of headphones, Apple's gonna launch a new computer, like every single day there's new stuff being launched. So I think that's kind of protects it in a way. Because if Amazon's like, we're only gonna pay you 1%, well then people are gonna stop making videos. And then all the new stuff that's launched won't have videos. Maybe sales are lower for that stuff. I remember hearing something like UGC is one of the best converting assets like a brand could have. See, so I think that will kind of, I mean, who knows? But I kind of think that could help because they're going to want that content and it's cost them like literally nothing.
Yep.
For most categories, they're paying you 3 to 4%.
Yep. Yeah, and maybe it takes a long time for this stuff to happen. But the Steve guy did say that, and I had similar thoughts just because the marketing thing I had taken, I just heard all these things. I'm like, this just seems prime for like lowering fees, and TikTok Shop, same type of thing. It's like these brands just give a bunch of free stuff. Like, when are the brands going to realize that this is not getting them an ROI? Like right now. Like a lot of and here's another, this is, I guess, different from Amazon to TikTok. A lot of these TikTok brands right now are just thriving because there's not a lot of brands on TikTok. So all this stuff is working for them. But eventually there will be so many brands on TikTok Shop, and the fees will be raised on TikTok Shop. And then all these things will happen to where they're like, okay, we can't afford to send like 85 people a day a free box of soap or whatever. Where Amazon, they're already established. So that's less likely to happen there. But for TikTok, I could see that being like, the brands are, a lot of them only having success because they're a unique thing on the platform. If you go to Amazon, there's nothing unique on that whole platform because there's already 1,000 brands of everything. So it's not like these brands actually are competing, and on TikTok, are they competing? They're kind of just like, you can launch something new on TikTok Shop and you're just going to get sales because you're the only one on there with it. So that's another. I could see that getting worse down the line for TikTok Shop. And from what I see, man, I think TikTok Shop's gotten worse anyways. I haven't seen anybody bragging about their TikTok Shop in a long time. So I think that's probably already getting a little worse. I think they've changed their algorithm a little bit where you don't get as many views initially. I don't know. And
Yeah.
then the UGC, I don't know. I could see that being, I don't know. I mean, that's tough. I think it'll go more onto like each brand will have a specific influencer. Like Vision was saying, he works with this brand that like people think he like owns the brand or whatever. Now, I don't know if he even said what the brand was, so I don't want to say it, but I could see that happening. Of like, okay, John, you're like the owner of this. You're like the person in this company. We don't need any other influencers. We're just gonna have you because your stuff converts well. So that will push a lot of people out and will kill basically anyone applying. But the people that get those deals will make so much money because they might even get ownership in the brand, that type of thing. And then they start posting content on their real stuff. I could see that being, really cream of the top people will make the money at the bottom wall. But Amazon Influence Program, like we've said, I don't know. It just depends. Amazon, I don't bet on Amazon for anything, so I don't. I think they will drop the fees, but you never know. Maybe this is something they push more. Maybe they raise the fees because they need more videos, like you said. I could see that being a thing too. Definitely.
I definitely see that. I think a lot of it too determines what you were kind of saying. Well, how long could they send out these free products? And I think it also depends like how much they're paying. Someone we had on the podcast said, this one guy he knows, the supplement costs $3. He's selling it for $50.
Yeah.
Like the margin, you're making $40. So you could send it to someone for $8. Like that's nothing. And then if
Yeah.
the video, right, it's like kind of 80-20, right? Probably 20% are going to generate all the sales, 80% won't. The only way to find those 20% is to send it to everyone and then
Yeah.
shuffle through.
It's funny you bring that up because I talked to somebody recently, not the same guy we had talked to, and I found out that brand is down like 90% on their sales, 95%. So what I said actually is exactly what happened to them. They launched a unique product on TikTok. They took over, like they making $40, $45 a product. Now a bunch of people have launched that product. The competition goes in, more price goes down, price goes down. Now the brand's not even selling much stuff. They've launched a new product. So that is kind of funny enough that wraps back around to what I think that's what's going to happen to them too. It's like, how much cash can we burn to make a good ROI or whatever. And there's a lot of aspects to it too. You know, like you need to have
Sure.
lifetime value and that type of stuff. But I just think that people will lift the veil and be like, well, another thing too, the reason this UGC stuff's good is because there's an arbitrage here of how much it's worth to pay these people and how much it's worth to make our own ads. That's where a
Sure.
lot of this comes in, is this arbitrage of I can pay John $100 to make a video, or we can just hire someone, hire a video, like do all this stuff for like $1,000 and edit the video and make our own thing. So there's like a huge arbitrage right now where people are still getting like a lot of money for making these videos, or like $500 for a video, but it would cost $2,000 for this company to produce it themselves. So I think that once
Yeah.
that arbitrage spawns, which I guess that is AI a bit, and then like the more people, UGC is freelance, and freelance all goes the same way. It's a race to the bottom. Who can charge the least amount of money for the highest quality they can? That's a problem with this. The like, I feel like all this is UGC, but when we say UGC, we're talking about like reaching out to a brand. We
Yeah.
probably should have named it something else, but that I could see being a problem because you are just racing to the bottom. And if you don't have some kind of like unique outlying thing, why would a brand even hire you? They're gonna hire 10 people for $20 instead of hiring you for $200. It wouldn't make any sense to do that. That's where the arbitrage is, and I think that's where a lot of that money's being made at the moment.
I agree with you there. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think like a couple things, like when you said that brand, right? All these competitors launch. I think one of the nice things about almost being the content creator is who they're going to go to. The people
Mm-hmm.
who made the viral videos for the first guy. So now maybe you have a chance for those four companies to make videos for them.
Yep.
Or be like, hey, I'm not, if you pay me X, I won't make videos for these other ones. And I also think the brand could be like, yeah, we'll make our own content. But I think one of the biggest things that they lose out on is what are they going to do with it? Now they have to do marketing. What are they going to do? Post it on their Facebook page? At least they get my audience.
Yep.
Hopefully that I've built, right? Because there's some following there or whatever. Like I get pitched for stuff all the time to put on this YouTube channel or to do Instagram. Like, there's no way, dude. Like, I'm not making a video for that. Um, so I think there's that as well, where these brands always need new viewers, new audience outside of their own, and it just might be cheaper, depending on the product, than running ads.
Yep.
Or if mine performs really well, then they're like, "Yeah, we'll pay you for that, and we'll just run ads on that."
Yep. Yep. Well, there's the cons. Well, we'll go to. I guess I don't want to keep these episodes super long. If that's cool with you, probably like
Yeah.
under 50, like 50 minutes or so, just because I want this to be. I think we've been pretty good so far. I'm
I've
excited
enjoyed
to do
it.
this in the
Yeah.
future with more and more stuff. So I want to keep it short and sweet, so you guys can like get some entertainment. Also, if you have recommendations on what we should do next, what series you want us to do, not series, but what group of businesses in the next series, we're gonna do ecom, we're gonna do resale, we're gonna do that stuff. Drop it in the comments because we're open to, we've got a decent list right now, but if there's something people want to know, we can add that stuff in. But anyways, next thing, I think talking about the upsides and the downsides, not pros and cons really, but like what's best case scenario and what's worst case scenario when you do these type of models. And I think that would be a good topic to discuss. So if there's any, what do you think about maybe, or upside, you can start either way.
Yeah.
We'll just kind of make it a conversation.
I'll go upside first. I think more sites do what Amazon is doing. So Target's going to do this. Walmart's going to do this. Supposedly they have influencer programs, but it's different. You're kind of using your audience to drive traffic back to them. Whereas
Yep.
Amazon, you're uploading to Amazon and Amazon's showing it to all their customers. So I do think more and more people are going to start to copy that. So if you're organized, I have 3,000 videos on Amazon. Well, if the stuff on Amazon also sells on Target and Walmart and all these other places, I do think one, you'll be able to upload them there too and get similar commissions. So for someone like me, if Walmart has, let's just even call it half the products, I have like 1,500 videos day one to
Yep.
just upload there. I was telling something the other day. I think eventually there's going to be a software that almost uploads your video to anyone who has a program like this, and it's
Yep.
just going to push to all the different sites. So I do think that's some upside. I think upside too, like anything else, if you're a good creator, if you're a top person, people are going to want to work with you. People are going to start to see, the ads that you're in. They're going to like the content. I get DMs every day. Oh, we saw this video you made. We really liked it. Would you make one for our brand? So I think you can kind of build like rapport around there. So I think that's some upside. And then upside two is I think a lot of it. Actually, no. Do you have any upsides? I was just gonna say one, then I was like, no, that's kind of a downside.
If you do TikTok shop in UGC, you can see what a brand needs for advertising. So yeah, I should have probably structured the question better. I meant more so like, one of the things I'm always harping on is like, I want to make all this money, like 30, 50,
Mm,
100K a month. And that's one of the, I'll get into that. But I think that if you do the content stuff, you get a good gist of like, what does a brand need to succeed in the future? And I think a lot of people have
mm,
done this. They made content a long time and they're like, okay, I can make this brand because I understand what the audience wants out of my content. And along with that, like I said earlier, for one of the pros, you could partner on with a brand. They could give you an equity thing. They could pay
mm.
you a lot of money like that. Um, and then other upsides are just kind of pros. I guess, I don't know. In the one thing is there's not a lot of tech right now. Like you
Mhm.
said, there's none of these softwares right now. But I do think that is a downside because in the future, I think the softwares will just flood in. And like I've said a billion times, tech is not good. More tech that comes in, yes, it's easier, but it really hurts everybody involved because more people can get involved and it just automates a lot of the labor out of it, which is maybe some people do think that's good. That's kind of how the direction the whole world's moving in. But I don't think it's good for people like us that are actually trying to do these models. It doesn't help. It just helps the company selling the software. It's really who that helps, and the company that you're uploading to. Do you have any more upsides?
I don't think so.
Yeah, and I guess there's the compounding effect like I spoke on earlier. I think Vision's a pretty good example of like the upside of this to where he's became semi-famous. Oh, you can become kind of famous also. You can get advertised enough to your face that you are a famous person. So if you like fame and you want to be famous, there's an aspect of like, man, I promise if somebody spends 2 million, $5 million in a year on advertising with your face in it, you will be famous. You will walk across the street and people will see you and go, I think I saw you on Facebook, and you're going to go, I have no clue, but some brands run your ad. So if you want fame, I think that's like a cheap way to get there because any brand could pop off and you become the face of this brand.
I think one more upside that I just thought of now that you mentioned him, um, is this is almost so if you do UGC and work with brands directly, that's like almost high ticket course selling, where you're making 1,000, 2,000, $3,000 a month. I know Kyle has like made some deals where he's getting paid like 3 grand every month, and he has like a 6 year lock or a 6 month lock in with them. So you don't need many of those $2,000, $3,000 projects, right? Even if they were 1,000, you lock in five for the month. It's 5 grand. I mean, try to make that reselling. That you need to sell like crazy. You need to do 50K a month. Spend close to 20 grand. That's if everything goes well. So I think that is definitely one of the upsides if you get good at creating videos, and you can lock in some of these high ticket deals, retainer deals. I think that is definitely an upside for sure.
Yep. And some downsides. I'll start with, not a lot of tech, like I said. Not a lot of tech is really good right now, but
Yeah.
tech will come. It's inevitable that tech will come, like you said, to upload these videos, to probably change a lot of stuff too. There's probably going to be tech that comes that is way more advanced than you can even think of. Because if you could think of it, you'd probably be like, we got to start working on this company. So a lot of it's going to be stuff that you can't even fathom would happen that will push people out. The viral view thing is a perfect example. Now that you have your competitive advantage might be negated a little bit now because now
Mhm.
everyone can kind of see these viral things where before you could see them because you've already sold on Amazon. You have this competitive advantage. Now the viral view thing, it's nice, but it probably hurts you more than it helps you specifically. Now other people it will probably help them, but you already had a good tap on the market. That type of thing. I think the more tech that comes in, that'll happen. Another downside, and this is my biggest like problem with the whole thing, is I think it's just really, really hard to make a lot of money. And if you're somebody who doesn't want to make a lot of money, then my opinion here doesn't even matter. But I think it's virtually impossible to make like over 10, 15, 20 grand a month unless you start getting out of this a little bit into the content stuff to where now you're a Kylie Jenner type person to where, yeah, you've done the UGC and stuff, but you're like bigger than that now. You've like outgrew that whole thing. That's my biggest like gripe with it. Cause I just, you run the numbers and you think like, how many deals do you have to get to make 10, 15 grand a month? Like a lot of deals and a lot of work. Or TikTok shop, how many lottery tickets you got to pull to make that much money? It's going to be hard. And then AIP, think about how many videos you have and you have a skill, like you have a knowledge. How many would the normal person need to make? Probably like 8,000 videos to make like a consistent 10 grand a month, which we talked to someone who did, but I would be curious if he still does. And I think that he had a lot of videos. I think he had like way more than you at the time. So imagine how much he has now. So that, and he's done a lot of work. Yeah, he's going to make it. So that's my biggest gripe with it all. And it's not exitable. Obviously, you can't sell yourself. I guess you could, but you can't sell your brand there. So those are just my two biggest downsides with it. And the only reason I even really don't like really push it to everybody I know, which I do push it to a lot of people because I think it's so easy. And if somebody's like, hey, I want to make an extra few $1,000s, there's no other better way to do it. But if they're like, hey, I want to make a lot of money, like that's just not the way to do it because it's just really hard to make a lot of money. But I'm curious your thoughts on that.
I definitely, the downside is definitely how much you could potentially make. I only know one person who I think the most they've ever made in a single month is $14,000. I'm not saying like that's not a lot. Like it just really
Yeah,
depends on your situation and what you're trying to do. But they probably, I think they have like a team, you know, and that was only like 1 month. That's not consistent. So I almost think your cap is probably on the highest level, which I'm not even at this point, is like 10 grand probably, and that's going to be like probably some full-time, definitely full-time work, which I mean if you want to make 10 grand a month, like yeah, working full-time makes sense, right? So I think that's one. And then the second, which you kind of touched on, it's basically you. I can't outsource making the AIP videos. Maybe I could uploading them and some other back end stuff, maybe reaching out to brands. But for the most part, like I can't, if a restaurant or a gym hires me to go work out, I can't send a virtual assistant to go lift the weights and
yeah,
film the video. So it's definitely all on you. So I think that could be one of the downsides. Whereas like kind of reselling or other businesses, you could outsource some of the stuff, and you could pull some different levers. But at some point, you know, it's going to be your time. You could hire, I know a lot of the people who are doing like 10, 15K UGC, they have video editors, that they're just doing like raw footage and they're kind of putting all the stuff together, emailing the brands and stuff like that. So I think down the line you can outsource it, but it's really hard to outsource up front since you're kind of the person.
yep. Yeah, well, I think that was a pretty comprehensive overview. I think we did a
I'd agree.
decent job there. I think we covered basically everything. We didn't tell you exactly how these things work of, you know, how you email somebody and stuff. It was not a course, but I think if somebody's like thinking about, do I want to get into this? Do I not want to get into this? I think this is probably going to be fairly educational to them. So that's
I
cool.
agree.
Any overview to close things out, like overview of like what you've talked about, any like summary of it? You give a summary, I'll give a summary, and then yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think, yeah, UGC as the overall kind of lens of this, I think it's one of the best things you could start today. As someone who's been doing AIP, I've done TikTok Shop. I'm starting to do a little bit UGC. I just think the model is super lucrative. Um, but I kind of will tie this back because I was listening to Hormozy at the gym today, and he kind of had this thing. He's like, you never start over. Like you only start from scratch once. And it just has really stuck with me. And for AIP and TikTok Shop, it's like I started the model over. But I've had an Instagram for 3 years making content. I've had a YouTube channel making content. Super easy to get approved for the influencer program. Been doing it for 3 years. To layer on top of that, I sold on Amazon. I know what an ASIN is. I know how the product page works. Like I know how fast things sell. So real easy for me just to like really jump in. As to someone else who doesn't have, you know, Instagram or a social media account, like they got to get that up and running. So I think that is kind of one of the things to consider. I think it's a good, I would say one thing in general outside of UGC, I think everyone should just sit down or talk to ChatGPT, be like, I'm trying to make an extra $1,000. Ask me questions to figure out the best way to do so. Instead of just being like, oh, John's making all this money doing the AIP program. I should do that. Sit down, ask them, and then go from there.
Yeah, that's a great way to. And when people listen to that, just translate what he just said. Don't even change the words. Just the, hey, I'm trying to make this. You have to be specific when you ask these things. But I think that's a great idea. Maybe we should have done a pre-episode to kind of like talk about the series. But no, that's good enough. My overview. I think that if you are trying to make the I'm going to say $1,000 to $4,000 because you've put a lot of work in. You make more than that. Other people make more than that, but they put a lot of work in. Most people are just not going to put that much work in. If you're trying to make $1,000 to $4,000, I think this is probably the best thing you could possibly do. There's no risk. Your money is your money. You're not buying stuff and then maybe you lose some money. You literally can't lose the money. You're not going to pay out again. That's not the way it works. So I think that is the biggest upside. So if you don't have a lot of money and you have time and you have like consistency and persistency to do this over and over, I think it's great. If you're someone who has dreams of owning a Lamborghini, I don't think that's where you should go unless you plan on selling info on it. Maybe that's where you go, but it itself, it's not going to get you some Lamborghini. Anybody online that tells you that's going to make you rich either completely lying to you. It's not even possible to do the numbers. But if you want to start something that's really easy to start and has money, like a job without a job. It's like a job, but you don't put the hours in. And a lot of these things are assets that live on the internet. I think we didn't even talk about this. These AIP videos, you never know if this stuff sticks around. Even if John quits it in 3 years, what if in 10 years his videos are still there making money? On TikTok Shop, you could have a video you posted a year ago. Now the topic is more relevant and it goes viral today. And then you make $50,000 in a day and you're just checking. You're like, whoa, I made that much money. UGC, these brands, that's probably less of that digital asset type thing. And you're also giving the rights away to another company. But the TikTok Shop and Amazon Influencer Program, those things will live on the internet forever, like a podcast, like a YouTube video, and you can get paid on them forever. So I think that's a huge upside to that too. We didn't really talk about it, but that's probably one of the biggest because you do the work and then you get paid over time. But yeah, I think that's it. I think we did a good job summarizing it. It depends on your situation. Like you said, you should go to ChatGPT. You should tell it stuff about you. For me, it just wasn't for me because I already have a lot of money. I don't want to make the videos all day. And I was just like, I can't do this. But for other people, it's like, okay, I'm good at making videos. I like making videos. I don't have tons of capital to start some new business. I want to do this. So it's really just super dependent on you. But hopefully we've laid out enough facts and thoughts about this to where, you can see if it's a good fit for you or not.
100%. If you could just take 2 seconds and subscribe to this YouTube channel, we would greatly appreciate it. We're trying to get to 5K subscribers by the end of the year, and the more subscribers we have, the better guests we can get for you. So you literally just take 2 seconds right now, hit subscribe. It will also let you know when new episodes go live and everything we're up to. Thank you so much. What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment podcast. What are we going to do today?
We're doing part 2 of the Blueprint series. We didn't have a name for it last episode, but we're calling it the Blueprint series. Just a blueprint of all these business models. And if you watched the last episode, you'll know what we're doing. If you're not, watch the part 1. It should be uploaded by now. Anyways, today we're going to talk about e-com businesses. Last week we did UGC content style businesses. Today will be e-com, which is where a lot of the audience is. So we're going to talk about Amazon, Etsy, Shopify, TikTok Shop, Walmart, all those different platforms. General overview of what this kind of is. You can do reselling. You can do white label, which is when you find a product and you put your logo on it that's already, or you sell some other person's product or whatever. White label is more difficult, but private label where you find something from China, you put your own logo on it. Or you can do print on demand, which we've had a podcast about that. That's like you have a t-shirt, you do the design and the manufacturer will send it out to the customer. There's a lot of different ways this can be done, the physical product business, but mainly we'll probably stick to private label reselling type stuff because that's what we know most about and that's who we've talked to the most. The print on demand, a little bit, white label, probably not at all. And then you have wholesale as well, which we've talked to a bunch of wholesale people. If you want to give any kind of overview that you want to, we can do that too.
Yeah. I mean, I guess just e-com in general is just basically, I think the simple definition is making money online, right?
Yeah. Via physical. I guess the better way to put it is via physical products. So e-com.
Yeah.
Maybe does e-com count like digital products? I don't really know.
There is digital products on Etsy for sure. Like people sell portfolios or spreadsheets and stuff like that. But a majority of it, it's going to be like, a customized mug or a t-shirt or a poster or whatever.
Yep. We'll do the same thing we did last week. Or last video, we'll do the pros first, so we can start there. I have a list of them, and then you can kind of like put in whatever you want. But I'd say the pros. There's a medium barrier to entry. It's definitely not high. You don't have to have some kind of unique skill. You don't have to have tons of money. You don't have to have a huge team or anything like that. You just need capital to buy products. And with the print on demand thing, you don't really even have to have capital. You just need a credit card, sell it first. Same with those other businesses. I guess technically you could buy everything on a credit card, which is still considered capital to an extent. And then you need storage. So you have to have somewhere to store these products unless you're doing a drop shipping or print on demand type thing where you have a third party to store the stuff, which is going to eat into your margin. But those are the pros of it, and the barrier to entry type things. Also, it's very scalable based on capital and skill. As we know, the more capital you have and the higher skill you are, the more you can scale this business. And I guess one thing we can do is start comparing it back to other things. So we can compare this to the UGC stuff, somewhat scalable, but you can't like shove money into your UGC that you've reached out to someone, or like your AIP. I guess you could run ads to your videos, but that wouldn't make a ton of sense. So that's hard to scale it based on your capital. It'd be more based on the skill thing of it. Also, another pro, you can get creative with the marketing. So you can obviously drive tons of traffic to your product from your own accord, unless you're doing something like Amazon, you're doing something like eBay, Walmart. You don't have control over your traffic there, but when you're doing Shopify, you're doing that type of thing, you can drive your own traffic, which is infinitely scalable and based on your skill or luck. You can sell the business a lot of the time. Obviously, with Amazon, eBay, that sort of stuff, you probably can't sell that business. But with Shopify, with Etsy, with TikTok Shop, you can probably sell that business for some type of multiple, as long as you have, a patent product maybe, or some kind of unique thing with your product that is better than the rest of the competition. And I think another big pro of this, and probably the biggest pro, is it will always be around. I don't think that there will ever be a time where traditional physical product businesses won't be here unless everybody stops buying stuff, which at this rate, they're all buying more and more junk every day. So that will probably never go away. Will it get harder? Yes, we've already seen Amazon get harder. We saw eBay basically die out completely. I mean, people still make money on there, but the volume's low, everything. Walmart, just wait and see what happens with that one. But that type of stuff, yes, it will get more saturated. Even Shopify, more saturated. There's way more people doing it, but you do have unique things that can push you ahead. So I think those are all the pros.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think like you said, it's not going anywhere. If not, it's only growing. And also, I think for most of these businesses, you could do it wherever. It could be like you could do it on your laptop. You could do it from any location, really, especially you have the ability to outsource to prep centers or 3PLs and stuff like that. So I think that's another pro as well.
Yeah. I think too, I should have prefaced with this. We could sit here and talk about Amazon a lot. He had brought that up before the pod, but we've done 100 episodes on Amazon. We both talked about Amazon so much. So today, if you're a traditional Amazon viewer, I think more so we're going to talk about the private label type stuff and that type of thing, just because I think that's more educational based on what we've learned. And if you don't understand Amazon by now and you've been doing it, then that's your own problem. And if you're on here and this is your first time watching the episode, we always recommend not to really get into that stuff. So Amazon, Walmart, that not our thing anyways. But anyways, we'll go on to the cons then. I think it's highly dependent on the platform. If you aren't creative with advertising, obviously you're an employee for Amazon. Basically, they do provide you the platform, but they can cut you off at any time you want. You're very dependent on them for your money. Same with eBay and same with Walmart. If you stick on those platforms, if you do Shopify, even if you get kicked off Shopify, you can make a new Shopify store. And there's other things you don't have to use Shopify. There's a lot of other platforms that are like Shopify. So you just because if you have the product, you have the website, you have everything you need, you can just transfer this to other platforms if it's your own product, your own brand, or you can even put it on Amazon. Or you can put it on something like that. Same with TikTok Shop. That whole flywheel is in the works there as well. So that's a con for some of these, but for others, not really that big of a deal. Highly saturated, I would say. It's not a hype model anymore because it's been around for years and years. So this is one that is going to be difficult to get into because you need to have some uniqueness, you need to have some capital, you need to have some skill. You can't just launch a product on Shopify, run some Facebook ads and get conversions and it'll all work out dandy. It's possible, I suppose, but I've done it and it's very, very hard. Same with Amazon. How many things you're going to have to go through before you find a profitable product. When before you just went to Walmart, you scanned some and it was probably going to be profitable because there wasn't so many people doing it. Another con, upfront, lots of capital. Almost all of them, you're going to have to spend some sort of money. If you want to make $500 on Amazon, likely you're going to have to spend $2,000 on Shopify. Your margin's probably going to be 30-20%. So you're looking at a 60% ROI. If you're trying to make $500-600, you're going to have to spend at least $1,000 to do that, which you can put on a credit card, all these things, but you do need lots of capital compared to, just making videos on your phone like the previous one. Skill barrier is high. Mentioned that before. You're going to have some type of skill for marketing or finding profitable products, sourcing if you're doing the reselling type businesses. And you can't sell many of them. So I guess a positive is you can sell them, but another one, you can't sell many of them. So it can go as a con as well. Another con, which I think is probably one of the biggest, is the tons of tech. You can build a website in 10 seconds with AI for Shopify or whatever. You can find products wherever using so many sourcing things. There's so much different tech you can use, which that can be good to get started, but it makes it very difficult because everyone has a level playing field, which it sounds good, but that's not, hypothetically that great. So other cons.
For me, like kind of hearing what you were saying, I think one that comes to mind too is we hear this all the time. It's like knockoffs. Like if you're gonna get we talked about it. Maybe it wasn't on the pod, but it was like we talked about. Someone was like, "Oh man, this supplement is crushing it." And you're like, "Yeah, they're kind of dead in the water. All these other people copied them, and now it's kind of a mute point." So I think that is one of the hardest parts, especially if you're going to be smaller. It's really hard, right? If you have a ton of capital, you want to fight all these legal battles and stuff like that. But even that, the damage is already done, right? By the time you could accord and figure this stuff out, like, who knows? It's 6 months, a year, and you're kind of like, well, this is over anyway. Maybe you could sue for damages of like lost revenue, but I feel like at that point it's a mute issue. And I also think too, it's hard to test, right? If you're going to do a Shopify store, it's really hard just to buy 5 items of something or even private label and see if it sells. And then on the flip side of that, maybe you buy 1,000, they don't sell. You buy 1,000, they sell out in 30 days. You're like, oh man, I should have got more. It's hard to get more. By the time you get more, your rank goes down and you're kind of starting from beginning too. So I definitely think it's a more complex business. So I think that's always hard to kind of do that. And we did try, I don't know, I guess we could say we tried to do the private label thing. And it's not like, oh yeah, you just go on Amazon and you run a Chrome plugin and you find, hey, like I wish this water bottle came with a straw. Like I'm gonna make a water bottle with a straw. That's how it's like kind of pitched and promoted. Or the other aspect is it's like, oh, it's only in this color. I'm gonna make a green one. So I think it's a lot harder and takes a lot. I mean, we spent maybe 3 months and we weren't even close. We narrowed it down to what we thought we were going to do, but then we got there, we're like, this is stupid, this is not what we want to do. And then we just couldn't find anything we were into, and we were even working with a coach. So I think that is going to be like the hardest part for
Yeah,
sure.
I think another con. I think yesterday I said the pro of these UGC type things, you can make money day one. Like
Hmm.
it's not likely, but it's possible. With this stuff, it's impossible to make money day one unless you're reselling on Facebook. Then you can technically make money day one. This other stuff, I mean, you're talking about private label and creating your own product. You have a 2-3 month minimum runway of getting the product designed, finding a manufacturer, getting the website set up, getting all the logistics in place. It's going to take a while, so you have to be patient. It's not one of those things where I'll just work really hard for a week and get it done. You just have to wait on other people, so it's completely out of your control. You can only do so much at a time, which I think is a big con because Grant Lennon said at one time on here, most people don't have the energy to wait 3 days or even 2 days. They're already out of energy in 2 days. So think about 2-3 months. You just sitting there burning money, burning time, and not knowing anything's going to happen, which probably you're not already doing that anyways. So you might as well just at least get something in motion at the time goes. But it can be a con. It can probably cause a lot of people to quit, which it
I would
probably does cause a lot of people to quit.
Yeah, I think the skill stack too is really hard because you have to be skilled in so many areas. It's not just product research, it's logistics, it's sourcing a product, And even if you do all that, then you need to do branding, then you need to do marketing, you need to learn ads. It's just so many different things. And yes, you could hire like agencies and stuff to do that kind of stuff for you. But again, it just eats into margin and finding the right agency. So I think that's another probably con.
Yep. And I guess we're going to bounce back and forth here,
Yeah.
but I think another pro of this is you can go a bit. It's very creative endeavor on what you are going to do with it. So like if you do want to be a reseller, you can be a reseller and sell things like that. But if you want to do a private label business, you can do something you're passionate about. You can do something that's like heavily based on the data. You can do something that's $1,000. You can do something that's $100. Same with wholesale. You know, you can like wholesale hot tubs and saunas and big monitors and things like that, or you can do gummies or chips. So there's a lot of creative freedom in like how you want your life to look and how you want the business, the margin, the risk, and that thing to look. So I think that is a big pro as well.
Agree.
Do you have anything else, or will we move to the upsides?
I don't know if you mentioned it, but I think if you're doing private label, the only like bigger is the exit. You could potentially exit, which makes the it worth it. And then maybe what we were just talking about, there's so many cons. So if you could get through all the cons and deal with all the bullshit, you have a high upside potential because the failure rate on this stuff
Yep.
is so high.
Yep. We'll move on to the upsides, kind of like the pros, but I'm trying to differentiate that a bit of the upside of like, if all goes well, what happens here? I think the upside of ecom businesses, like these physical product businesses, are probably the highest out of almost anything, aside from maybe software, but these things always be around. So there might even be more upside with the physical products, but you can churn cash with a really high margin. And we had met someone, we talked about this both episodes. They had found a supplement that was $3 and sell it for 50. So you have like a $47 profit there. And that was $3 all in and then shipped. So that they're making $47 a unit. You sell 100 units. I mean, you're just making so much money doing that. So you don't even need to have an exportable business at that point. You're just like churning cash flow. Like there's so much money coming in that you can't even possibly spend it all on inventory. You can load up with as much you want. You have a bunch left over. It's really hard to do that with other businesses that are that scalable. Because even with an info product, the more people you get in, the more you have to hire a team to help you out. You can't coach 1,000 people on your own. You have to hire people out to help you do that. And you have to hire salespeople. You still have to do the marketing. With the physical product, all that stuff is sorted. You're not making the product by hand every day. You can just focus on the marketing or focus on something else, and then the physical products just sell themselves as long as you can put the inventory in. So that's really nice. I think high margin in ecom is probably not what people put in their head, but that's because most people are used to Amazon or eBay and stuff, and then your margin's just trash, like almost all the time. But that's because you don't have any creative freedom to extend your margin. You can't like manufacture the price of your product based on the volume and that stuff. Wholesale, maybe there's some leniency, but not really. You're still not manufacturing the products. There's still not things you can do to lower the cost. Um, See that's a huge upside to me. And then you can extend the product line indefinitely with most of them. Now, even with Amazon, you can branch out. Let's say you're really good at selling Nike shoes. Well, the same websites sell Adidas shoes and Brooks shoes and Asics shoes, so you can extend out that way and extend like wide. Same with Shopify. Let's say you sell a cup. You can sell a straw for the cup. You can sell a koozie for the cup. You look at like Yeti, for example. They probably started with a very small thing, or actually, I think they might have started with coolers. Then they started selling cups. Then koozies, and then backpacks, and then flasks. I saw a Yeti flask the other day. You can extend that out really far, which you don't have that luxury with other things. The physical products, you can just make new products as soon as they integrate, they integrate. Stanley, for example, too. I don't know if you know this, but Stanley was a like men's clothing type thing, a men's worker. And then they started making those. Now all the girls in the world want a Stanley. So they've extended that brand massively. Where if you did like info, for example, I mean, I don't even know how you could reach another audience, but if you're branded as the guy who is like the outdoorsy guy who does, I don't know, fitness, how are you going to expand over to the stay-at-home mom woman in the city? That's probably like an impossible gap to close. Where with this stuff, you can kind of extend your product line really well. There's another big upside. Oh yeah, extend the business. I mean, you could actually sell your business for 50 million, 100 million, $200 million. So that means every hour you work, you can sell this for a extreme multiple. So when you think you're working for 10, 15, $20 an hour, you could technically be working for like $1,000 an hour, $2,000 an hour if it works out like that. Caleb Roth with selling the software, he explained this too. You have capital gains tax. You don't even pay income tax on the sale. You're paying like a 15, 20% capital gains tax, which adds on a ton of money where you would normally lose it to taxes.
Yeah, I'd agree. Well, yeah, with the Stanley thing, I think it was originally a thermos company, and
Yep.
they would like keep like soup hot for workers and stuff like that. So yeah, I do agree with pretty much all your upsides, and I do think too, if you have a successful physical product, was it Steve Roll? I think it was Steve Roll who's on the podcast. He's like, you don't always have it right away, but you do have the potential to go into retail. Like if you have the packaging right, or you could repackage so it's good for retail, and then you almost have infinite. Like there's infinite stores that could carry that as well. So now if you have a winner, and I guess it's easy to be like, hey, like this is our sales on e-commerce. This is what we think we could do in Target or Walmart or whatever. And I think that could be like a lot of upside as well, which makes it probably easier to sell if you could get people in retail as well. And then you also have the option to wholesale. Like you could do so many stuff if you have a good product, a good
Yep.
base product.
And then downsides, which is, somewhat with the cons, but I don't think there's a ton of like huge downsides or whatever, but there are some, I mean, there are big ones. There's not a ton of them, but I do think the risk you carry on is probably the biggest downside. You have capital risk, you have the lawsuit risk, like you had said. Anyone can just sue you randomly, and that probably wouldn't happen if you're doing, UGC type stuff or you're doing an info product. You can get hit with FTC things and things like that, but it's just so few and far between. When you have an econ product, if you accidentally rip somebody off, or you accidentally sell a brand that you're not supposed to sell on one of these websites, there's a bunch of different things that can get you sent legal letters. I have hundreds of legal letters piled up from selling on Amazon. So luckily I've never been sued, but that is part of it. And then your capital risk. You hear all these people. If you're, for example, on Amazon, you get shut down. We've heard the horror stories. You can lose 50 grand a day. It just gets locked up forever. Never get it back. Same with Shopify, which Shopify might not be the problem, but Stripe can shut you down really easy. And it's not easy to get another payment processor. I went through this process to get another payment processor. I got some random one that it worked fine, but it's not Stripe and it's not as easy for people to pay with as Stripe is. So if Stripe shuts you down, you're in a bit of trouble. And it's not super easy to open another Stripe account. Same with Amazon. It's very difficult to open another one. I don't know as much about TikTok Shop, Walmart, that stuff, but I would assume the same stuff once you get kicked off there. I mean, they have your name, they have your address, they have your cards. Are you going to be able to just make a new one? Probably not. You're probably going to have to do a lot of work to make a new one if you get kicked off any of these platforms. And then you don't get your product back a lot of times. With Shopify, you probably get it back, but it's irrelevant. With Amazon, maybe you don't even get the product back because it's counterfeit. So they're not even allowed to ship it back to you. Or if you get it back, you can sell it for pennies on the dollar on eBay. But the bigger problem with Shopify is if you get your brand back, let's say you're not a huge brand, you can't go sell your $50 supplement to someone on the street. You can't go sell it on eBay because the only reason people are buying it is this marketing and the drive you have. Otherwise, you just have a random supplement and no, like they could just get that from Amazon.
Yeah.
So the branding part of it is like part of the process. So that can be a huge downside if your brand goes bad. If something like that happens, you can't just sell the product as easy as you might think you can. Just because it's worth this much online doesn't mean other people will pay that other places. So
Yeah, I actually just wrote that down, and then you just like took. But yeah, I think there, if you like screw up and you don't have a winner, it really has no resale value.
yep.
Like this water bottle, if I price it as a Stanley, if no one wants it, like I'm not getting anything for this bottle.
Yep.
It's going to like Goodwill or something.
Yep. Well, that's pretty much the rundown of this business. I guess we can just talk about stuff now.
I think one of the other ones too would be I have two down. It depends on the product you launch, but I think trendy, like variety. Like a lot of these supplements are based on I don't know, what's going in like gut health was a really big one. Probiotics was a really big one. And I'm still sure people buy gut health stuff, but it's not as big as it was. Like the Goli vitamins, right? That's huge. So if you catch one of those, I mean, that's great, but it's not always going to be a thing. And we kind of see that in outside of kind of e-commerce. Like we see this with coaching and groups in the FBA space, right? There used to be a ton of people into this, and now, people are looking for other options. They're not sold on reselling as a whole. And so that means those people have to look for the next trend, or, sell people on getting into the influencer program or UGC or other popular models. So I think that's one. And I think one that I've heard a lot of people talk about on other business podcasts is basically supply chain. You're not necessarily in control of the supply chain. When the tariffs happen, a lot of people were like, yeah, this water bottle is coming in. And then it's like, whoa, we got to pay 120 more percent to get this in. Like, there goes the margin. Like, I already placed this order. So I think there's a lot of that too. Like, you're not 100% in control of the supply chain, which can make it difficult.
Yeah, and it's good that you said the trends. I was going to touch on that too. Um, and I have personal experience with this, so I understand how bad this can get. I've sold a lot of trendy stuff since I was a kid. I remember when I was like in high school, I was selling fidget spinners. And I remember my first order, I got them for like $300 and I sold them for 900. So I made like 200% ROI. The next order I spend maybe five, 600, I make $1,000, $1,200. So I'm up a ton of money at that point. And I think this trend is just going to keep lasting. I'm just going to keep doubling my money. Well, eventually I ordered like $1,000, $1,200 worth of fidget spinners, higher quality ones. I like really put the time in to get this order. Shipping gets delayed a little bit, and by the time they come in, no one wants the fidget spinners, and I still have them sitting in a room somewhere. Like, and that's all just lost money. All the profit I've made is just lost. And when you're running a low margin business, which 100, 200% ROI, yeah, that's great. But when you're running, the UGC and the info stuff, it's an infinite ROI because you don't put any money into it. So you can lose, you can give a refund. It doesn't really matter because you've already have all this money that you've made all the money, all the 100% on. Um, but the ecom, the physical product stuff, the cost of goods is massive, and you can just burn that if the trend dies. I've done it with Amazon. I've done it with that. And with info, you see somebody like Ty Lopez, for example. He does a different business model that he's promoting like all the time. You can just kind of move. Okay, well, this is the best one this year. This is the best one this month. You can just keep doing this, and it doesn't really matter. If you catch the wrong end of a trend, well, you just switch your offer. It doesn't really, you don't lose anything. Maybe you lose some advertising dollars, but if you're running organic, you just start posting about stuff that catches on, it doesn't, et cetera, et cetera. So that the trend thing can be a huge upside, like you said, but also probably more of a downside because you can lose way more than you can make in those situations.
Yeah, and I think another thing, I was actually listening to this story of a guy who launched, or a company that launched supplements or whatever, and they basically went through the phases. They had like a powder, then they went to a pill, and then the whole thing. And they bet the farm on, not bet the farm, but we're like, we're gonna get this. Like, no one else is making it with this certain protein or this certain way, and they do it. They formulate it, and then they go to run the ads on Facebook, and Facebook's like, oh, you can't advertise because it has this in it. So now they have all this stuff. They really don't have an outlet for it. And then they're like, well, I guess we just have to give away for, free samples for customers. But now you're adding weight to the shipping. It's just like a whole mess. So I think a lot could probably go wrong in that aspect. And almost think too, you'd almost want partnership. And that's what they really talked about. Like, he was the marketing guy. They had another lady who was like very involved in the nutrition, and then they basically had like a logistics guy who know how to source the product, how to like kind of get into stores and do stuff like that. So they had three different people working on three different aspects of the business. But if you're just the one guy and you got to do all that stuff, it's really difficult.
Yep. Well, that overviews that stuff. You have anything more to add on the pros, cons, upside, downsides, or we'll just talk about the stuff in general?
No, I don't think I have any more upside downside.
Yeah, we probably missed a bunch. When you're talking about like Amazon, Etsy, Shopify, TikTok Shop, that type of stuff, obviously they're all so different yet the
Mm-hmm.
same. They do sell physical products, but they're all very different. Actually, we can get into this. If you're gonna start an ecom business, if you're gonna start one of these, what is the best thing you think to start and the worst thing to start? Or how do you rank them? Like what do you think's the best?
So I feel like it depends on where you're coming from. So if I could go back in time And
Let's
I
say
was
I'll give you a scenario. Let's make it easier.
yeah,
Yeah, I
okay.
have $5,000. I've never
Okay.
sold anything on the internet before, um, and I want to make $100,000 a year.
Like profit.
Yeah,
I mean, probably launch your own brand would be like the best thing to do. I don't know. I go back and forth. I almost feel like it would be best to maybe start an Etsy store, low risk, no capital, build up some more capital, and then maybe look into launching my own brand. Just because I don't think 5 grand, it just doesn't go that far.
yeah,
Like, especially if you got to buy. I think most purchase orders would probably be like 5 grand, depending on what you're doing. You're not even accounting for any software, marketing, any of that stuff. Like the people I was talking about, they each put in 10 grand to
yep,
get it off the ground. So it's 30 grand. So I think that's really hard to do. And I guess it just really depends on the space too. Like I feel like supplements and stuff like that, you probably really have to be dialed in because you could obviously get sued. You probably need to do a lot of testing. And I don't know. For me, I'd probably say Etsy would be like the best. If you had the 5 grand, I would probably say do Etsy and build capital up and then see what you could do. Like, I don't know if you make 100 grand profit doing Etsy. I mean, I don't know. A lot of the people we talk to, like, I feel like a lot of people will scale it up to 6 figures in revenue, and then they just, like sell coaching or do stuff like that. I don't know a ton of people that make 100 grand profit doing Etsy, but I don't know. I don't really follow this space that much, but I'd probably do Etsy, and I'd probably say launching a brand on Amazon would probably be the worst. Probably do it on Shopify. Try to get like some proof of concept there, and then go to Amazon because I think you just run a lot of risk on Amazon. Like almost like get the product to my house and fulfill it myself on Shopify.
yep.
Then if something goes wrong on Amazon and they're like keeping it just seemed like that would be a nightmare. What about you?
Yeah, I think funny you think Etsy. I was gonna say Etsy probably one of the last, just because I know little about it, but I just don't. I've seen, after we had that one girl on, I like looked into it a little bit. I just don't see the upside there much at all. I think that it's so easy to start, and it's so just kind of a lot of garbage that it'd be really difficult to make that work. I think you'd have to grind for like a really, really long time. And to what, make like 4 or 5 grand? I don't really know. To me, I'm just not a fan of any of that kind of stuff. So I find that one like one of the bottom, um, probably the bottom, just because
Interesting.
the print on demand type stuff. Now, I don't know if you want to make your own products, that's a whole different ball game. But the print on demand type thing, it can just become so saturated so easily, like anything you do, and you have no recourse to recoup what happens to you. So, like, I don't see how the print on demand is that great of a thing. Where we've had two
You
other
also
ones.
have no risk though. You're just making designs for the most part.
Yeah,
So there's
yeah,
that.
yeah. It is no risk, but I think risk can be like you do need some aspect of risk to make this stuff work. That this is why this is why I don't love the UGC stuff as much as no you've done it. You like it a lot. It's
Yeah,
just like yes, it is low risk, but there's also low upside. Where I think the Etsy's
true.
the same way. You're never going to sell your Etsy print on demand business. You're never going to make 50 grand a month print on demand unless there's people that do that. Like there's certain people that do, but it's just so unlikely when with these other things you can hit it well and make it good even with Amazon FBA you can make I've made $60,000 profit in a month with Amazon. That's like an
True.
unreal amount, but if things go well, you load up the inventory correctly, you get rid of things, you can make a ton of money. And with Shopify, you have one ad that goes well, you have one person that uses your product, you can have a massive influx in sales as long as you have the inventory on hand. So I look at stuff as baby is more of what's the upside, because if you get money quick, it's kind of a lot better than getting it over a long period of time. 5 grand a month or 10 grand a month sounds good, but 100 grand at one time is much, much better. It's way easier than you trying to, if you even do the math on it. Let's say that you're making 5 grand a month, which is reasonable. For you to make $100,000 profit in your bank account, that's going to take you what? 20 months. It's almost 2 years of making 5 grand a month, and you're going to spend the money. So you're never going to actually
Sure.
get the 100 grand. You're honestly probably going to take like 4 years to make that. When if you can get 100 grand in one shot, you got your taxes on it you have to pay, but I'm not considering that. You're good to go, and you have $100,000. That'll last you for like a year or two if you can live on that. So so I think that's a huge aspect of it that I think the Shopify, the Amazon private label, and even the Amazon to an extent provides. I don't think it's likely on Amazon or Walmart or reselling because you're going to have a ton of capital to do that. But with Shopify, I'm a bigger fan on the Shopify thing. And with Amazon private label, you don't have as much creative freedom because you're just paying PPC. And you have a
Mm,
lot more competition right there with you. One thing I heard this from a marketing guy: whenever there is competition right beside you on platforms, that is not great. So I know school they're doing fine, I'm sure, but I'm sure they're not doing as good as they thought they would. They were going to take over the whole internet of just like being the one-stop shop. WAP is doing even better than them. I think a big problem with all these places is you don't have any independence of your thing. So like let's say you run a sports betting group and I run a sports betting group. Well, if you have 200 members, I have 500 members, and I have better claims for my group than you do. If I'm on one of these platforms, I'm gonna go with my group. I'm not gonna go with your group. He has more people in his group, and he has better claims. He has more winners in his group. I think that's another problem when you run into like the Amazon stuff, where at Shopify, if you're looking for this certain supplement you've got here from an ad, you're not worried about the dog collar beside it. Or you're not getting add this to
true.
cart too. TikTok Shop, that's kind of like the Amazon Walmart thing. So I think there's something to that the Shopify provides, like your individual thing, where you have a lot more creative freedom and less competition coming in from random stuff. So that I would say Shopify is probably number one, and then
True.
maybe Amazon private label, reselling type stuff, Etsy. I would put it at the bottom actually, but I do understand the no risk thing for sure.
Yeah, I guess it really just depends on your context and what you're trying to do. And yeah, I would agree. I kind of didn't even think of like reselling as a whole. I was just like thinking through the lens of like private label, and I'm just like, yeah, 5 grand is not gonna do a ton for you. But maybe yeah, if you buy something from China or whatever and set up a little Shopify store and run some Facebook ads to it, you definitely do that for 5 grand for
You
sure.
don't even have to buy it though. You can do drop shipping.
Oh, true.
You
Okay.
don't even technically
Yeah.
you can get the product yourself and inspect it and get the packaging right afterwards. Or you don't even ever have to touch it. You can kind of drop ship forever and then maybe move to a 3PL that's bigger that stores your products, but really you don't ever have to touch it.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. I think I think I don't know. I hope you guys learn a lot from people listening to this. I hope you guys are learning a lot from us talking through this because this is cool. I mean, we've talked to so many people, and I feel like we're more educated than I probably thought we were, and we have a lot more of these coming. So that's cool. But I think overall, this physical product stuff is good. It's just a lot of the things we're talking about are just so low margin, or they will end up being low margin. That is that what you want to get yourself into? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people don't understand. That's the hardest part. I heard someone make the argument today that, just because people, like a lot of people are hating on Amazon orange bars and, that's not necessarily, you can applaud them because sales are up even if profits down. And it's just like, yeah, maybe. Like, is it progress? Maybe. But I think that's where I just think the math is just very murky on a lot of this e-commerce stuff. Like even if you had inventory labs, like you needed an accountant that you're going to pay $400 or $500 a month to check your inventory labs, to go through the Amazon reports. Like there's no like you don't even know where you stand half the time. And I think what makes it so lucrative is you could easily be like, yeah, I have a six-figure business. Like it would be so easy. Like that's what is that? Like $10,000 months? Like that's not
Yes.
hard to do at all. Um yeah, less than that. So I think that it has a lot of phantom costs, I feel like, where you're like, "Oh, this thing like I did the same thing when I was doing the Amazon books. It wasn't as bad because you're paying like $1 making $5. When you do OA and stuff, it's easy to be like, oh man, I had $150,000 a month, and then you go through everything and there's $20,000, $30,000 left, and that's great, right? but it's like, where is all this other money? Like, stuff is lost. I think there's a lot more logistics that go into it, where if you really drill down, like, your per hour rate, it's so little. By the time you're fighting Amazon for refunds, you're shipping the stuff, you're putting labels on the stuff. Yes, like, a lot of this stuff could be outsourced, but then, like, that time goes to managing, like, your prep center. You still got to fight with Amazon. You got to build a VA team. Like, there's just so much other stuff that goes into it. It's not just, oh yeah, send stuff to Amazon, collect a paycheck. Um, and it's not sellable, which is the big problem. But I feel like, at least with this, you're probably you have more of a likelihood, maybe, of having a sellable business, or at least something, or a skill set I think you could take to somewhere else. Like, if you
Yeah.
could figure out the logistics of, like, building a product, running ads to it, having some sales success, or even if it is successful, like, you could go do that for the next guy, or you could go take that to, like, a big white label person and, like, do it for them. I think the skill set, that is probably the most valuable, I would think, because if you learn how to run ads, you learn how to source a product, like, that stuff's, like, really valuable to almost any company.
Yeah, definitely. And
Being
it's
able to, like,
important.
do a t-shirt design, or, like, find something at Walmart clearance, or use 10 coupon codes or whatever. I mean, that's great, but if you get suspended on Amazon, like, what do you do with that?
I'd be a smart shopper forever. That's how I am. I'm
I
pretty good at
mean,
finding deals, but that's about the only skill that I have from it. I learned, I've did Amazon for like 4 years, and I did the marketing and that type of stuff for 7 months, and I learned more in that 7 months than I did in the 4 years
yeah, for
prior.
sure.
It's usually just how it works. I think a big summarizing thought here that I have too. I think when you're doing a lot of this stuff, now this depends on who you are, but I'm just talking about the person that wants to get rich. You want to make 200, 300, 400 grand a year at least. You want to make big money. I don't see how the end game of you doing Walmart and Amazon and that type, or even Etsy, is going to get you there. I just don't think it will. There are people that do, um, but you just break down the math. It's just way harder. Because let's say you're doing 200 grand a month on Amazon, you're going to make a 10% margin max, and you have to reinvest all your money back. You're not actually collecting that. You're going to make 20 grand a month. What are you going to pay yourself? Five? You're going to pay yourself 4 grand or something. Look, you're making like minimum wage almost. You're making just a little over that. So it's really difficult to do that. And if you can't sell the business, I don't know if there's a huge point in doing it. And like you said, that the hour dollars per hour is just so low. People don't even understand that. And maybe they don't care. Maybe they're like, I love selling stuff on Amazon. I
Mm.
love selling stuff on eBay. Yeah, then do it forever. I don't really care. But if you want to get rich, I don't know if that's the way to do it. And we know this because we talk to all these guys on this podcast, and we don't talk to many rich dudes who do that. The rich guys sell info. They've sold a company. They do something really high level, like Steve Roll type guy who does info and has this huge, like
Make
wholesale
software.
empire. Yeah, all those things. I don't know if I would love to know if we've talked to, which, we don't ask this stuff to people, but if we've talked to one person who has resold their way to be a millionaire. And I would say there's zero shot that anybody we've talked to has made $1 million profit that's in their bank account. It's got to $1 million net worth from reselling. No shot. I don't even know who even comes to mind that would even be possible. And we've talked to the biggest resellers ever. We talked to Amazon Lit. That's the first thing that came to mind. But I mean, they're selling their stuff on auction. So I don't know. That'd be difficult to say, anyways. Have they made $1 million net worth from just reselling? Very unlikely. So there, I'm just like, what's the end goal there? If you don't want to be a millionaire, you don't want to do that. Yeah, do it. Do your hobby. Have some fun like that. But is it going to really get you there? I don't think it will. So you need to sell a company. You need to do something to where you can make an exponential amount of money on your time, which a lot of these don't really provide.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the talk has shifted to, like, Amazon's great for cash flow and to, like, bring it into other aspects of your business.
Which
I
is
do a lot
bullshit.
of, like, reflecting, where it's like, like, if I were to start all over again, I would probably go, like, the private label route, or try to build something, one, that's, like, sellable, or two, I guess my point is, if I knew how much time I was going to spend trying to build and grow my Amazon business to kind of be left with virtually nothing. I mean, right? I mean, like, what do I left with, right? I'm doing the influencer program now, right? Like, yeah, you have a bunch of inventory and stuff like that. But if I went, let's just say me and you met, I don't know, 5 years ago. We spent all the time we spent building our Amazon business and decided 5 years ago to do the private label and work 60, 80 hours a week just on that. Like
Yeah, we'd
we
be rich
would
as hell.
be on
We'd be
like a
so
yacht or
rich.
something.
Yeah, we'd be very rich. Yeah, I think that's a
So
good.
like I think about that a lot and I don't regret it because obviously we're doing this podcast and like I met a lot of people and I'm like friendly with a lot of people in the space. But I had like the ultimate, like I had a 9 to 5 where I was making like more than I needed to live on for sure. So I could have took my time and actually did this. But I also hated my job where I was like, I need to make money and got into books and stuff like that. I kind of wish I did sit down and be like, what do you actually want? And if it was like, I probably would have been like, ooh, like, I want a way to make extra money. I want a business that I could sell. I want a business that I don't really have to be super involved in. And like everyone says this and it's super like, yeah, whatever. But if you have the luxury to do that, I think that is, I would have been able to do that. And let's call it, I quit my job like 6 years ago. I could have easily, I was a copywriter. Like that was like the heyday. Like I kind of wish I just did like freelance copywriting stuff, rolled that money into something, or kind of figured out something else I wanted to do. Or I think what I'm trying to get at is actually sit down and think, what do you want? I don't want to be at this job. Okay, great, but like, what do you want? Like, I don't think if I sat down, it was like going to thrift stores and scanning books. So, like if I really did the math and thought about it, I think what I got as as you start following people and you see things, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do books, then I'm gonna go to wholesale, I'm gonna do private label, and I'm gonna be rich. And it just didn't work out that way. And could it have? I don't know. I don't really think so. But that just seemed like what most people did, and then you don't really see any of those people or it didn't work out that way. So, and you don't know, like I think one of those quotes is like you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only do it looking backwards. I think it's one of those, but that's kind of where we were talking before this podcast. It's kind of where we both sit now. It's like what's next? So like I'm very bullish on the influencer program UGC, but this time around it's like I want something that if I'm going to put my effort into, one, it might actually be worth something in 5 years where I could exit, get like a big paycheck out, and then like be done. Or two, like make something that's lasting. Like resell, everyone's like, oh, reselling will be here forever. Yeah, sure. But like not at the capacity it was in like 2020. There'll always be room for that. But again, like what are you left with at the end of it?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
nothing.
if you do good and you cash flow or whatever, but then we're gonna have someone on, I don't know, next week or something who was lucky, took a lot of money out of the business, but got suspended. Like, what do you have left? If you just leverage, you have $500,000 of shit at Amazon. That's going to cost you what? 20, 30, 40 grand to get back in massive debt? Like, that's what you have left.
Yeah,
I
seems
mean,
like not a
I don't
great way to
know.
live.
Like, I just had a lot of time to like reflect lately, and that was kind of like the conclusion I came to. It's like, for the influencer program, yeah, I'm like really bullish on it, and but like at the end of the day, it's not exitable. It's good for cash because there's really no expenses against it. I don't have anything to sell. At the end of the day, I have 3,000 links to videos that are living on Amazon. So I think that is kind of like where I am. And knowing what I know now, I would have put extra thought and effort into like what could I build to sell,
Yeah, dude,
or
this
come up
is
with a
such a
number. I want to have $10 million in my bank account by X day. And I would be like, yeah, you're not going to get there reselling books. Like, this option is out.
yep.
Like, it's not sellable. Like, to do, like, it just wouldn't have, like, occurred to me, I think.
Yeah, this is such an important point. This is like one of the things I wanted to close this with. I think you saying this, in hindsight, it's easier to see this.
Hmm.
Yeah, obviously, dude, that's like all of life. But
Yeah, I'm not
also,
like
this is
shitting
this
on
is
anyone. I'm just like reflecting back on myself. So
yeah, yeah. But
I'll say
also
that.
though, there's a point too because now if somebody's watching this, this is their hindsight. This is your hindsight moment of what we're talking about here, and it's very important. If you hear the stuff that you're saying in this, you're just like thinking through things that are like happening to you, and you're just being honest because you're just talking through it on a podcast. What people don't understand is a lot of their thoughts, and the reason you got into books and the reason I got into reselling, your thoughts are not even your thoughts. You just saw some Instagram videos, you saw some YouTube videos, and then you don't even think about anything but, whoa, books can make me a lot of money. And you don't even know what a lot of money is. You don't even understand anything. You're just like, well, this will get me there. And it did. I mean, it got you to a point where you got to quit your job. And same for me. It got me where I never even had to work a job. But if you look back on it, make sure that you're not letting other people's thoughts be your thoughts. Because that's all marketing is all these people that are telling you, okay, you get into books and then you'll get into retail arbitrage, then you'll get into OA and then you'll do private label and then you'll be rich. It's like they haven't done that. They're just trying to sell you a message so you can bridge the gap in your head so you'll buy their shit. That's like a huge part of it. It's just all these things people say. And I've done so many sales calls with people to get on like info products with me. I'll hear them say stuff back that I've said on Twitter or I've said on Instagram, or I'll hear them say stuff that I know another influencer guy has said. And I'm like, man, you don't even have thoughts on this. You haven't even thought it through yet. You're just like repeating marketing to me, which I already know. Like I already know what's going on here. You need to really sit down and think, yeah, what do I want to get out of this? And if all goes well or if all goes bad, like how does this look? If someone tells you I make $300,000 a year selling retail arbitrage or whatever, well, do you understand what that looks like? Do you understand
Hmm.
like how that is even possible? Is it mathematically even possible for yourself? Probably not. You'd have to hire employees. You think this through. Where are you located? There's like lots of things to think through that I think people get blinded with. Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds awesome. Yeah, and it's not really like that. And another part that's really important, they said, what are you left over with? You need to be left over with one or two things: money, and a lot of it. Exit a business. You have a cash flowing business that's made you a lot, and you can just get out of it with minimal downside there, or a lot of skills. If you work for 3 years and you make nothing, but if you come out of there an amazing marketer, an amazing designer, something like that, at least you've left with something that can never leave you. The money can even leave you, but the skills will never leave you. So that's another important point. Maybe, and we shit on reselling nonstop. I hate doing that, but it's just part of it. Reselling just provides you very little skills. It provides you very little money at the end of the day compared to these other things. What are you going to do when you walk away like me and John have? What we're not sitting here millionaires. They're just super happy we got out of this. We're like, whoa, we both did this for a long time. We were both pretty good at it. We didn't end with a lot of money. We didn't end with any skills. If so, we would have already started something like really, really big. But it's like now we have to navigate, where do our skills even work? The little amount of skills we even have. So just kind of reiterating all your points, trying to put my own thoughts on it, but it's all so important. And if people can understand this stuff, I think they can navigate all this a lot better instead of just reading marketing messages, go with it. You need to think it through. You need to think, what will you end with? What does this involve? What are all these things? Not just what somebody on Instagram tells you.
Because I
And
think
that's for
where a
sure.
lot of people run into this, and I ran into myself, right? Everything seems good on paper, and I'm not directing this to anyone or anything like that, but a lot of it makes sense on paper, right? Like we could have easily just been like, you know what, like we could have been $10 million resellers, but we love helping people so much, we decided to be $100,000 resellers a month, and and that makes sense to a lot of people, right? But in our heads, we know
Yeah,
it's
it's not
better
true.
to sell info, and that's our path to $10 million, not building a $10 million Amazon business. So I think that also kind of what hurts the people. And I was like kind of not victim to that, but you're like, oh man, that makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah, like maybe I'll get there. And that's one of the reasons I was super hesitant to, and I'm most likely not going to do like an Amazon influencer course. Because I'm like seeing the landscape already. It is like people who are doing FBA or have other groups, they're already pushing people into this. And I don't want to like I actually do like helping people, and I think we both do. Hence why we spent like thousands of hours on this podcast. We're making maybe a penny an hour doing this. But um I guess it's like I don't want to put all this work and effort and be the Amazon influencer person, and then the influencer person goes by the wayside, and then it's schmick schmock or whatever else is next. And I'm like really trying to think through. Like, I actually, Tim Ferriss interviewed this guy, I think his name is Charlie, and he basically came up with something called like Charisma Academy. And he did this like 10 years ago. And it's basically how guys could get charisma. It
Mhm.
started with dating, and now it's just be more confident in general. Selling the same thing for 10 years, made tens of millions of dollars. I mean, that's, I don't know if it's 10, but he's at least $10 million.
Yep.
Made the thing like 2 or 3 years ago, made all the money. He had a YouTube, like, he had to like push and stuff, like, whatever. But like, just think about that. Like, everyone's going to want to be more confident eventually, right? Like, that's something that everyone's going to want. Like, I guess eventually, who knows, but like, someone's always going to need to know how to find a job.
Mhm.
Most, we're entrepreneurs, maybe not, but the general population is going to need help finding a job, making a resume, or whatever it comes. People are going to need to know how to use AI. But I think I went with all this like trendy stuff: how to sell books, how to sell on Amazon, how to sell on eBay, sell coaching for Amazon FBA, like all things that are fleeting. Or to me, I could have sold coaching for FBA probably forever. It just didn't sit right with me. But I think that's like what I'm thinking through for the next step. Like, I think this podcast will be evergreen because people are always going to want to learn how to make money, and that's our future growth plan for this. So that's why we're doing these business breakdown series. Like, hey, here's some ways. Like, someone's always going to need to learn how to make money, and that's kind of like our North Star at this point. Like, what's going on? How can you do it? Talk to people who are making money. And so that to me makes a lot of sense because whatever, if TikTok's no longer a thing, we're just going to talk about the next thing and interview people making money on that to help you guys. So I think that's what I think about a lot. And also one of the reasons why I wasn't FBA John or Book John, it was Side Hustle Experiment, because it's like, I'm going to do a bunch of side hustles, experiment, and then let you know what I found out. That was always, and I would thought it was so dumb when I did that. Like, oh, look at FBA this, look at FBA that. Like,
Yeah, look
oh,
how
they're
that turned
crushing
out.
it. Like, oh, my branding's not strong enough. And like, here we are now, 100 episodes later. Which, if this was FBA podcast, like, this thing would have been dead. I don't know, six
We'd already
months
quit.
ago. 10, yeah,
Yeah.
it would have been like, we're not talking about. And and you see this throughout the space. People who were like, this business model, now it's some broad show, or it's this group is now, no, it's more about just how to make money overall. So you're like seeing the shift already. So that's kind of, I think, if the most, yeah, I guess I babbled on for like 10 minutes because I couldn't like really sum it up. But if I could say anything, is sit down and really think through what you want. And if that is to make $1 million, map it out. Like, how much money or capital would you need to do that on Amazon? The
Mhm.
answer is about 2 to 3 million. And that's if
Yeah.
everything goes perfect. Probably more than that.
Yep.
Because you need team and stuff like that. So I think really just sit down, figure out what you want, what your skill set is. We mentioned this on the last one. Go to ChatGPT. I'm trying to make $1 million. Ask me questions one at a time. What would be a good thing for me to pursue? Answer all the questions, see what it spits out. Thank us later.
Well, finally, summarize this up. I do like e-com stuff a lot. I think it's very worth it for a lot of people. I'm not a fan of the reselling stuff, obviously, but I do think starting your own brand, learning how to market. I don't even care if you fail for a year. You're trying to drop ship. You're trying to just learn these marketing things. Learn because you're learning sales at the same time. You're learning all these things at the same time. They're going to last you forever for the rest of your life. You're never going to unforget these things. And a lot of the insights I provide on this podcast that like are unique. That you people are probably like, oh, where did he even hear that at? I've just learned this through marketing and through that kind of thing, which you don't really learn just by reselling or doing like, print on demand type stuff. But anyways, I do recommend it. I think it's good if you're looking to get into a business, you have some money and you want a bigger future. You want an exitable business, then sit down and grind on a private label, a Shopify type thing. And then remember always when you're doing these physical product businesses, they're quick dopamine, and they look good when you get a lot of sales. So if you want to move into the info world, physical products are a great way to move into the info world and start doing that. Which our next podcast, part 3, will be about info, personal branding type stuff. So tune into that one. This will just be the natural progression, because if you do get into this stuff and you don't have a sellable business, guess what? You will be selling info. You will figure out that is the golden way to make the money with the physical product business. But anything to close this out, or say your last words here?
That's it. I would just say, yeah, basically what Drew said, figure out what you want in life. And to be honest, like if making like 1,000, 2,000 a month is for you, yeah, reselling is a great path to do so. Not trying to like cause any trouble here. But yeah, just figure out what you want personally and think a little bit more about the future. Would be the advice I guess I'd go back.
Yep. Think for yourself.
Yeah.
Stop letting marketing guys get to you.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode and know someone else that would enjoy this episode, if you could send them this episode, literally just copy and paste a link, send them on Instagram DM. Everyone loves to network. This is a great way to do it, a very easy way. It helps grow the podcast and get better guests. So the more the podcast gets shared, the more views we get, the better guests we could get for you. We would really, really appreciate it. And tag us on social media and we will share it as well.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment Podcast. What are we doing today?
We're doing episode 3 of the Blueprint series, breaking down businesses, business models, that type of thing. First one we did UGC, AIP, TikTok Shop, that whole thing. Last one we did ecom products, and today we're doing my personal favorite, although this is the most hate that we give on anything, info products. And this is going to be really difficult. We were just talking about this, to stay away from the personal brand altogether, but because I just don't want to conflate the two, because you technically don't really have to have a personal brand to sell an info product. I want to kind of separate those, but there's the info product thing's so big it can do its own. Then we'll do a personal branding one in the future, but mainly focus on info products today. I'll give a little breakdown of this, and then I have a very important thing to break down to give context about everything we talk about. And this should really give people context about everything. I think it's one of the most important things that people hear when it refers to all these business models or whatever. First off, we'll just explain this. Info product business, selling information, transformation, or skill acquisitions via courses, memberships, coaching, digital downloads, masterminds, that type of thing. You can do this on Gumroad, Shopify, your own site, Instagram, TikTok. You can literally do it in the DMs there, or text people. You make money by building an audience or paying for traffic for your offer via ads, affiliates, that type of thing. And usually it's solo operators, but you can have a small team. You can have a big team. And it's good for people who want to be the face or the authority. And we'll go over this episode, the pros, cons, etc. But before that, I want to give this little thing that had me thinking last night. I want to break down 3 things. And I hate to start this with Amazon, but most of people watching will probably come from that. So this is just a good example. Let's just break down Amazon FBA, your own brand, a Shopify brand, and then an info product. And I'm not talking about exits. I'm not talking about any external factors. Let's just talk about getting to $50,000 profit a month and break down the numbers here. Because last episode, I was editing these clips yesterday, and you were talking about that big thing of breaking down the math and stuff. And I was like, this is very important. Unfortunately, it was so long, I couldn't put it into a really short clip, but I was like, man, this is very important for people to think about. So I made this today. Let's say the average FBA you run this business is $25 for your average sale price, which I think is probably around average. Might be smaller, but a lot of those are private label. But I don't know, average $25. Your net margin after your fees is 10%, which I think is relatively generous these days. I know people that run 7% business, but we're going to go 10%. To hit 50K profit, you need $500,000 revenue a month, which is $6 million a year. And you need to sell 20,000 units a month. And if you break that down, 666 orders daily. Your working capital needs to be around $200,000 to $300,000 a month with credit and capital, whatever you have all together. Think about that. Well, let's move to a Shopify brand or your own brand. I'm guessing you could do this on Amazon private label as well. Say you sell a product that's $60 and you have a 20% margin. To hit 50K profit, you need $250,000 a month, and you need 4,167 units a month, or 139 orders a day of a $60 product. And think about what a $60 product is. I can't really, a microphone. Let's say you have a decent microphone. This microphone we use, I think, is $60. So let's say they produce that for whatever. Let's say they just make a 20% net margin at the end. 139 of those microphones a day. And then I don't know the working capital number for that, but I would say it's probably around like $60,000 to $100,000, maybe a little less.
Probably.
Now let's talk about info products and why all the people on social media are telling you to do all this other stuff, but why they're doing info products. Let's say your average sale is $5,000, which is pretty basic for an info product. And this can go up to $10,000 more. We'll talk about this later on, but let's say it's $5,000 and your net margin is 95%. You pay Stripe, I don't know, you lose a few percent for something random you're doing. To hit 50K profit, you need $52,600 revenue a month, and you need approximately 11 sales a month, or 2 to 3 per week. 2 to 3 human beings per week. And if we break that math down even more, what does that even mean? Like, you can go out in the street and try to pitch 2 or 3 people. Maybe it's not like that, but let's say this podcast, let's say on average that we are getting 500 viewers. We're not on average that, but that's like a decent episode. And we do a terrible job, and we have a 0.5% conversion rate. Only 0.5% of people trust us at all. That's 2.5 people. That's the goal. That's hitting the goal. If we do a terrible job, we have 0.5% of all the audience that watch this podcast, we will sell 2.5 per week, basically, and you hit your number of $50,000 a month. So that was long drawn out. I hate that I talked for 3 minutes, but I thought that was very important because it's just been on my mind of like, no wonder everybody's doing this stuff. Like these are the numbers, guys. This is like, what's the reality of this stuff, of how much simpler it is to do that rather than grow this massive Amazon or massive Shopify or these other platforms. You have a 95% margin. You can sell a $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 product. It's a pretty good argument there.
Yeah, for sure. That you did a ton of math for this episode.
Locked in.
I 100% agree with you, and the math on it is just insane. Like capital wise. Now, I guess the hard part becomes, as what we were talking about actually before we started this podcast, is what do you have to offer? That's where it becomes like, why would someone pay you $5,000? And we can get into that later. But I think a lot of people, have been on my mind. And so for those who may be listening before or just don't know, we've both sold info. Drew has sold a lot more than I have. We both bought a lot of info. We probably bought together probably over $100,000. Like through the easy. We've spent we've done courses, we've sold high ticket coaching, we've had free groups, like we've done it all. So we have a pretty good grip on this. And more importantly, we know a lot of people who sell info and have some, it's called back of the napkin math, based on what they've said to us. So I do agree with you. When you break down the numbers, if I had to go all over again, I would definitely lean into info.
Yeah, it's crazy. When you break down the numbers like that, it's actually ridiculous because you understand, like, dude, how long would it take you to get to $500,000 a month on Amazon or start a $250,000 a month brand with a $60 product is generous as well. Like, you don't buy a lot of stuff on the internet for $60. I don't, unless I need it, like really, really need it. But like impulse purchases, $25 or less. So I'd say most brands overall are around that. You understand how much of a difference it is to do that? And then not only are you selling a 100 times more expensive product or around that, maybe even more, your margin is like 50% more. It's just really ridiculous. And there's more complexities to sell and info stuff, which we'll get on to this. We'll do the normal format of these episodes, but when you break down the math, it's ridiculous. And I want people to know too, this is one of the biggest reasons I stopped selling Amazon is because I made the money with info and I realized, whoa, there's something to this info thing. And I don't want to keep selling Amazon info because I found that hypocritical at the time. So I'm like, okay, I got to figure this out. And that's what I did for like a year. I tried to. I failed a lot. But I mean, that's comes with some of these cons that we'll talk about and things like that. But I'm still very, very pro info overall.
And I think what you're talking about with the conversion numbers, I think a lot of people don't understand how much people actually make with info. It's more like, oh, they sell on Amazon. Oh, they probably sell like a couple, how many people actually buy that or whatever. But if you want to get like some idea, I would say you could look at someone's like Facebook group size and kind of like assume like maybe that's not everyone on their email list, but just general-ish. I think if you took like 1% or 0.5% times it by that, that's almost what they're probably converting. So if they have a $300 thing, let's just say 300 people buy that. Is that 90 grand?
Yep.
Yeah, 90 grand. Like,
Yep.
that's insane. So, like, I don't think that's too far fetched if you have like a $50,000 or 50,000 person Facebook group for 300 people to fork over 300, because that's on the way, way low end, I would say, of
Yep.
most info. And that's 90 grand. Like, that's absolutely, like, wrap your head around that. I think what most people make, what, 45, 50 grand if they're lucky, maybe not. And on top of that, I heard a stat the other day that if someone pays you, you probably know more than I do about this, like $300, they're willing to pay you, like a certain percent is willing to pay you, I think 2 or 3 times
Yep.
that amount on a higher ticket, and you keep leveraging that up. So if you paid 300, 900, then the people who pay 900, you could do 2,700, and so on and so forth.
Yep. Yep. That's like, I don't know the exact numbers and like the math on it, but yeah, I know that's true. It's like it's just crazy getting all this math. Well, let's leave the normal format. Let's do pros first.
Okay.
Low barrier to entry. You can create the offer with like minimal capital. Now, the problem with it is what you said. What do you sell? And nobody thinks they have anything, but you do have stuff inherently in you. You've done something in your life. No inventory or physical product headaches. You have high margins, often 70%, 95% plus, maybe 70% or so if you have team ads, that type of thing, or 95% if you have no ads, you're running solo, what me and John both did. Scalable via ads and organic content. So it's kind of infinitely scalable. Now, fulfillment is not, but you just hire coaches and you can hire different ways to do it. And I'm just talking about, I guess, coaching, but you do courses that is literally infinitely scalable. Any human on the earth can buy your course and you can just keep giving it to them. Highly flexible. So you can sell a bunch of different products. You don't have to just sell a course. You don't have to just sell membership. Everybody thinks this. They try to pigeonhole themselves in like, I'm just doing a course. I'm just doing a community. I'm just doing coaching. That's not even the best way to do it. You need to have like levels for everyone, because there's going to be people that will pay you $50. There's people that will pay you $50,000. You have to try to touch these points in between. And it positions you as an expert. So it can lead to fame, speaking, consulting, that type of thing. So those are the pros that I can think of off the top of my head and that I wrote down before this.
Yeah, I would say I would add to that. It's basically, I think one of the coolest parts about it is you could literally change someone's life. Like, we've shit a lot on Amazon, but we've both, like, obviously saw other people sell on Amazon. Now I don't have a job. I haven't had a job for 5 or 6 years. So yeah, I guess thinking you could change someone's life as being a coach, like people who reach out to me, or even, when someone says, hey, we watched your podcast, it helped us pivot from selling on Amazon, or it got me thinking I should double down and it worked out for me, or whatever. It just feels really good. So I think you could literally change someone's life, which I think is probably one of the biggest pros. You could really have an impact on someone's life.
Personal fulfillment. Yeah, huge amount. Which, as a con, it can also cause personal explosion. But we'll talk about the cons. You're the face of it, so you can't stay anonymous. So you have to be out there. Your stuff has to be out there, and you very difficult to sell the brand. People do that. They pivot. Like Jim Launch had Hormozy, and he pivoted to sell that thing, and they still use his, I guess, face on ads or whatever. I don't know how that all worked out, but it's difficult to sell a personal brand like that. You can't actually sell your personal brand. You can sell the company that you create around it, like a Mr. Beast type of situation as well. And for an info product, I don't know. That would be really tough. Would you sell your course to another coach and they can brand your course now? I don't even know if that would be possible at all, which is a huge con. Skill barrier, you must know how to sell and teach, and you have to figure out how to do all this ideation of the offer, which is very tough because people are asking about all the time of like how you even make this offer. That's like half the battle. I created what you want on the spot the other day, but it's like, if you don't know how to do that, you're going to end up doing something that's not good and it's really hard, and then you're going to end up quitting it. We've all been there. So I've done the same thing. Saturation in many niches everybody's got, and everybody has access. Low barrier to entry. Every time you have a low barrier to entry, you're going to have saturation. That's just typical. But you have this creativity aspect, same with the content type stuff that you can change. You could have a high refund rate if you are a scammer. And that's about it. Oh yeah, the personal explosion, which I'm sure you like talking about that. So you can talk about that con of that end of it. The opposite of what you said with a pro, because they're both. It's both pro and con.
So I would say a couple cons that come to my mind is, one, it's super stressful. Depending on a lot of people who will come. I remember we never worked with this person because we turned them down, but we were doing high ticket coaching. It was like, I think it was $3,000, and this person's like, I have like $3,000 left on a credit card. Like, I need you guys to make this work for me. And we're like, dude, like, no. So a lot of people sometimes will come to you like super desperate, looking for you to be like their savior. And that's just really hard because there's no guarantee, number one. Number two, I think another hard part is you think everyone is like you. Like, I'm not propping us up or anything like that, but if I'm gonna do something like really hard or for a period of my life, I expect to work like 60 hours a week. Like, most people would be like, what? Like, you can't, I only have an hour. Like, I can't do a $50,000 business a month, like in an hour. It's like, no. Like, and it all depends on how you market it as well. So I think unrealistic expectations come to mind. And then I think one of the hardest parts is probably why we don't coach. It's just really hard. You're basically repeating the same shit over and over and over again. And it's important, but like you can kind of be creative, but you constantly have this like battle in your head. It's like, I've already said this. If I've already said this, are they not listening? Am I not getting across correctly? Like, what is the deal here? You're just constantly like spinning your wheels to say like the same stuff all the time. And I think one of the biggest cons is just failure. Like, when you go into this, or when I went into this, like, oh, everyone who works with me is going to be successful. Like, that's just how it's going to be. Because like when I take a course, like I do all the work, I do this or that, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you don't realize that when you offer coaching, and then you just have this constant like imposter syndrome if you give a shit, which is just really, really hard. I think for me personally, you're like, damn, this person paid me $3,000. They're not why are 10 people paid $3,000, let's just say. Why do only 2 show up to the call? Like, where is everyone else? Like, why aren't they doing this? Are they listening to the replay? Like, am I doing a bad job? And it just becomes really, really hard to keep showing up and be like, am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right thing? So I think there's a lot of that as a con. And I think another con, which I've never been in this situation, but you get so much money selling the current thing you're selling. And if the opportunity kind of goes to shit, how do you throw away all this money? Like, the opportunity is not that great anymore, but like you still push it. I think that's probably hard for most people as well.
Yeah, really, if you're not like a psychopath, a lot of this stuff gets difficult. Or you just like can constantly pivot. Like I talk about Ty Lopez a lot on here, but people hate Ty Lopez. I'm a big fan of Ty Lopez because I think he's produced good products. He hasn't went to jail yet. He's just constantly switching because I think that's how his personality is, which is another big part of this. Like, I think part of the reason, me and you both kind of crashed out on info and Grantland and talked about how everybody crashes out on their info stuff. It's because that we didn't build it correctly. And most people don't build it because they're like, I want to do this personal thing one-on-one with these people. But dude, you can't have 700 friends. And if you're going to grow a massive info business, you're going to have like 500, 700 people. But you can't have 700 best friends. Like, imagine you did that in real life. You'd lose your mind, like. So it's the same type of thing. You can't spend so much one-on-one time. All the mentorship, almost everybody that I mentor that stuck around the whole time, I still talk to them. I get on calls with them like every few weeks to still talk to them. But that's probably why I crashed out, because I'm just like being friends with these people. It's like, yeah, you can only be friends with so many that you can't give enough attention to certain. It's just really, really tough. So that con is big, and that is like a big downside of success. But most people, you don't need to worry about that. These cons we're talking about, that's the more negative stuff like that. You got to work on selling a product first, and then you worry about crashing out over it. You're going to crash out over it and like stop. So get started before you stop, and think that, don't be deterred by me and you saying this, I think, because we're still very bullish on it. Like we do think it's like one of the best, maybe the best opportunity aside from just like selling a big company or whatever.
For sure. And I think one of the biggest cons as well, it depends on what you are teaching, but you ultimately kill your business / kill your edge. Like, a great example is Amazon. Like, you have to give away the secrets or whatever. Like, you just can't be like, oh, keep looking, keep looking. You're gonna be like, hey, this is how you get engaged at Nike. Hey, this is how you use the Kohl's Cash. And then when you're giving all this stuff away, what does that leave you with? Number one. And then number two, if you don't set it up right, I've been here before. You're like, I'm gonna offer coaching. Like, it's only, we're doing 2 calls a week. It's not gonna affect my business. My business like just nosedive. Like, because it just takes up so much mental bandwidth, so much capacity. Like, and a lot of what you do, well, I've had a YouTube channel, obviously, but you're teaching or something comes up, and we were just talking about a video I sent to him, and it's just like, usually you do a video, you always have something to talk about because you're actually doing the thing, and something always pops up, but then can't necessarily talk to your coaching students because like now you're killing your edge. So you're constantly have to be ahead of them, but they still have to be behind you. So you have to have this like tricky balance so you don't kill your business. And then you're like, well, it's only 10 people. But guys, like, when you sell on Amazon, like 3 people on a listing versus 13 now, it's cooked. And then now they have your storefront. It just becomes like this big mess. And that's why I feel like a lot of people who teach it don't really sell because they'd be cooked. Like, they'd just be losing money.
Yep, 100%. Well, on to the upsides of this, which is, follows along the pros a little bit, but kind of more bigger upsides. And then we'll talk about some bigger downsides of just like, best case scenario, worst case scenario. I hate to do it's weird. I'm doing pros and cons and then upsides and downsides. It's like the same thing, but I'll have to word the upside and downsides better because I feel like maybe best case scenario, worst case scenario is maybe a better way to do this. Like, what's your biggest success thing? Yeah. What's your biggest fear?
Best case, worst case, I think probably good.
Yeah, we'll do that. Well, instead of upsides, this is the segment of the show is now best case scenario. That's the new one. So main thing is your infinite leverage to sell the same product over and over. That's so massive. And you don't have to have more time or more cost to do that, where an inventory or things like that, or so let's say a service-based business, you need more time, you need more employees. With product business, you need more inventory, you need more ad spend. With this stuff, you could technically, especially if you do a group coaching type thing, as many of you know, you probably know a lot of guys in the spaces that you are in, like Amazon space especially. If you set it up right, you can just group coach to 800 people, 1,000 people. Doesn't really matter. You're saying the same information. You set it up correctly. So infinite leverage, literally. Can bolt on high ticket offers, mastermind. So you can, like I said before, I think you could start with, okay, I'm going to sell a $47 guide to do stuff. But then you're like, okay, well, now I'm going to make a $99 community on top of this guide. And then boom, I'm going to make a $5,000 coaching offer on top of that. And I want to get really into that later in this podcast of like how all that stuff works, but not at the moment. And then you have recurring revenue if you do it that way. I think a lot of that's a bit of a myth. Everybody talks about, I want to have recurring revenue. We've heard this so many times on the pod. And they're like, yeah, I want to do like $50 a month. If I get this many people, it's like, dude, that's recurring revenue is cool. But if you, let's say you do $50 a month for somebody, they have to stay with you 12 months, which is probably not going to happen. And they only pay you $600. If you just got $5,000 out of them, now you have 10X almost what you. Like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. You're going to keep them in your program for 10 years? No, not at all. So high ticket makes more sense there. And then you build an asset that compounds over time. The more followers you get, the more people see your authority, and the more people follow you. It's just infinite scalability like that, because the more views you have, more followers you have, more people are going to view your stuff, and more people are going to follow you. Just snowballs.
Yeah, I think best case for most people is you're able to basically, and we see like there's one, I'm not going to say who they are, but they have done this where it's like one guy and there's like 5 guys below him that learn from him and they coach, and then it kind of just stems down. I think that's your absolute best case, and you're kind of just, yeah, you'll go to a couple of the calls or maybe not, but you're basically like the face of it, and then you have students below you and they kind of teach, and that doesn't like burn you out. So I think that's probably the ultimate best case. And just knowing, like, that sounds so far away, but a lot of people end up doing that.
Yeah, and
it's the only way to scale it, really.
Yeah, there's so many things I want to get into after this, but I want to get through these segments first. Let's talk about downsides, because there's really nothing on the aside from what we talked about of those like crashing out type things. But you posting content, trying to start an offer, There's no downside. You could get on CoffeeZilla, I guess, but you're not going to get that off the front. So like, you just post content, you offer something to the public, and then if no one likes it, they're just not going to watch your stuff and they're going to say no. The fear of rejection, if you can get over that, there's nothing else that would be a big downside. You can't lose money unless you just start off, I'm going to push $1,000 a day into ads. Yeah, don't do that. But even then, you could maybe end up making money if you have a high ticket product. You only have to close one person every 4 days. If $1,000 a day, if you do the math on it, it's just kind of ridiculous. But maybe you have more downsides that you can think of.
The only downside I could think of, if you're not going to go the paid route, is you got to be good at making content, or you got to be out there almost every day, being helpful or being in the community or whatever. So I guess you're going to have to do that. And then probably if your content's not super great, you're going to have to be good at sales to kind of convince someone to do this. I think it's really hard. The only thing that's probably the biggest downside, which obviously we kind of struggle with as well, is figuring out what you're going to offer. Like what is worth that, and like how to build content around that, and kind of when I would kind of say not a downside, but like worst case is like and I've been there, you just constantly make content and then you never offer anything. And then that opportunity kind of like subsides and it's kind of too late, or it's just not as good of an opportunity. So I think that's almost worst case. And you're always like kind of afraid to ask, and I've definitely been there before. So I think that's almost worst case. You just make content to make content, and then you never end up monetizing or just feel like scammy about it. So I think that's almost the worst case.
Yep. There's not a bunch of huge like worst cases aside from these like small things. I think the upside is just like insane. That's why it's my favorite. That's why I'm most into it. And another big part of this, too, I didn't add this as a pro, but on the skill level, for you to create an offer and to sell the offer and build an audience and all this stuff, it requires like a lot of systems that are very, very valuable skills. For one, you have to build the offer, and you figuring out how to build an offer. You might think that's like not a hard thing to do. It is hard because it takes a lot of like, okay, how's the math work on this? What's going to cause the most work? How's this going to scale in the future? Because if you can't build that, it's just going to keep setting you back to zero every time, because you're going to have to rebuild the whole offer, which eventually you'll have to almost no matter what you do. But you want to start with something that makes a little bit of mathematical sense. Then you get an audience. So you're learning how to make content. You have to be a trustworthy person. If you can't do that, no one's going to even see you. So that's a skill in itself, is how to make good content. And then you have to write good copy. You're going to have to write and tell people on your website or whatever, unless they just go straight from content to sales call, which is probably unlikely. You're going to have some type of like written persuasiveness that gets them in there. And then you have a sales call, which is hard on its own. You have to know how to sell stuff, which is not easy. That's a really big skill. But if you can get all those, and then you fulfillment, which is, probably the least of the worries, really. You just teach what you do. Those are big skills. Those are like the big 4 skills: content, copy, sales, and creation. I don't know. That's probably the biggest 4 skills you can even have on the online world. So making an offer and getting the audience and selling it, you're stacking skills that can take you literally anywhere. You can do it. You can start a product, a brand on your own, because you know all these skills that translate to everything. So that's a massive pro that I think most people don't really talk about.
Yeah, it's definitely so difficult to build out like something that's really good. It's easy. One of I think the downsides too is it's not downsides, but depending on how you target or whatever, you're not working with the same people. Like who you bring in, they have all these different problems. So if I do keep a video, like some people don't know how to read a graph. Other people know how to read a graph, so they're bored and they're like, this isn't helpful. So you got to like cater to a lot of different audiences, but then they also paid you a lot of money. So you're constantly in this, like, is this too general? Or is this too much? Like, where is the line go? And that's kind of probably why a lot of people do like weekly calls or monthly calls, because you get like that one-on-one. But I do think building out the offer and doing the marketing, probably like one of the hardest parts for sure, because you're just basically trying to take something. You're basically trying to take what you did and show everyone else how to do it, but how you do it isn't also logical to the people that are going to come in, I guess, or they don't have the same skill set. Yeah. Which is hard. but that's also why they paid you. So it's kind of like this weird thing.
Yeah. And I think most people listen to this, if you're interested in this info thing, or maybe you're a person that thinks like, I'm not capable of doing that. I'm not good enough at something. Maybe you're an Amazon seller and you do 12K a month and you're like, well, that's just not enough. I don't know enough to do it. There are like two different buckets you can be in, like big buckets here. You can be like a mass appeal, Tony Robbins, Alex Hormozy, Andrew Tate type person who sells kind of everything to people. Hormozy doesn't do that, but he kind of does. Makes content about business. Okay, you don't have to be them. You're not going to be them. Likely, you're not going to be some super famous person that can get all this money like this. You want to be a super, super niche person, for example. And I see this. This is where I see Amazon coaches go wrong, is they all have the exact same sales message of, this is the easiest way to make money online. You go to the store, you scan products, and you sell them. It's like, dude, that message is so played out that you've got to change the message. Amazon's not going to change, but you have to change what people perceive this Amazon thing as. Of like, I remember saying this. I used this as a marketing thing. It's something I did. Of, here's how you can buy things that you love and sell them for more. Of like, okay, I'm into pre-workouts. So we're only going to find pre-workouts that you find already cheap because you're shopping for pre-workouts, and you're going to try to sell them in a marketplace that's higher, which is Amazon. So you see how like that flip, that makes it seems like it's a different business model, but it's not. It's the exact same business model, except for one guy is saying, go to Marshall's and scan stuff, or go to x.com and look at the clearance. Yeah, dude, that's so played out. Like everybody said that. You have to change the person's view of the whole business model, which I don't know what my whole point of was there, but yeah, for people like, yeah, that's the small niche thing. Like you can sell anything. You can be someone, like, it's just the possibilities are literally infinite of like what people buy horse coaching and dog coaching and things like this. Like if you look at how many offers are on Facebook, go on Facebook and just start trying to get your algorithm into like info product offers. You'll be amazed. It's just like so much different stuff here that you're like, people pay for that. Yeah, they pay a lot of money for it. People pay $5,000 for stuff you'd be like, there's no way people are paying for it. But everyone has problems and they need these solutions and they need transformation. So they'll pay to get the transformation, or at least think they're getting it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. It's all about the messaging. And I think that's probably one of the hardest parts too of doing it. It's like, how can you almost show them that they can make money, present it as easy, but also it's not that easy. Like you're constantly doing that back and forth bounce. So I think that's kind of one of the cons. But I do think anyone can really sell anything. So for example, you said, oh, the person doing $12,000. Well, they're making $1,000 most likely, depending on the month. So basically, you could show someone how to make $1,000 on Amazon.
Yep.
Like you might be saying, these other people are saying, hey, how to make $50,000 a month. Well, not everyone wants to make $50,000 a month either. So you could do it, or you got to take it the other way, which I think is Raken does a really good job of this. I'm making X, only working 4 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a whole team that's done this for me. I have it built out. So I think you could do it the other way. He has like good numbers, but I guess if you're working a 9 to 5 and you're making an extra $1,000 working 5 hours a week, well, like someone probably wants to work 5 hours a week to make $1,000. So you could teach that part of it. I think that's kind of where I went wrong. Instead of being like, hey, this is what I did, you're trying to teach like something you think. I think a lot of people think, well, no one wants what I'm doing. Like, and I've run into this with the influencer program when people like DM me, they're like, and don't do this. They're like, how much are you making? And they're like, holy shit, like, really? And I'm like, oh, I guess this is like on the higher end of what other people are doing. Like, it just didn't occur to me. Or like, I think everyone has 3,000 videos. Well, like, that's not even the case. So I think you get caught in your head. It's like, well, once I get to like these 10 or 15K months, then I'll do something. But then sometimes that's just so far ahead, and like they're like, well, he has 5,000 videos. Like that's like I'm not gonna do that. So I think it's constantly finding the balance of like how to market it, how to package it, but still be like true and real about it.
Yep. Yeah. Another thing I want to talk about on this stuff, and I don't know, but one day on this podcast, I'll get into detail about this, but maybe not super into detail yet. But one thing that happened that most people, maybe some of you guys don't know this, but I ran a seminar April of, I don't know, like, was it last year or 2 years ago now? I think it was No, it's 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
I think so. Maybe it was
Yeah, I
last.
think it's
I don't remember. But I did this, and I had so many people message me, coaches and other people, of like, dude, this is a genius offer. Like, how'd you even come up with this? Like, what did you think about it? And I just pieced together stuff I'd saw in other spaces, and I'm like, I think I can like juice this out before I leave. This is my exit of Amazon. And there was a guy that commented on the thing. This guy had ironically been on a sales call with me before, so I don't know why he was like hating on me like that. Well, he was trying to hate, but he didn't really. But he was like, "Oh, this is cool. You're going to make $100,000 off this thing, and then you're going to dip. Like, why are people even paying you?" And I was like, he's hating on me, but ironically, he's like my biggest fan, because I didn't think I was going to make $100,000, and I did not, by the way. But that guy thought, okay, this guy has enough pull, and this offer is good enough to where I can make $100,000. But all that sums up to say, I did make a lot of money on that, like high five figures on it. And it took me 2 weeks of work, which it took me years of work to establish all this stuff. But 2 weeks of marketing it, I didn't really know exactly what I was doing. Now I could probably make $200,000, $500,000 from something like that. But at the time I didn't. I didn't have anything bolted on. My offer was just the offer. I didn't have any back end things. Although the people I worked with were like, you've got to sell a recurring thing, or you got to get people into this with a cheaper thing. All these things, like, no, I just want to do the flat thing. That's going to be the uniqueness of the offer. But this one little bit of thing made me enough money to where I could sustain a year of my life. And plus, I already had a bunch of money before that. But that's all it takes in this info stuff. It's so powerful because all the money you collect, you just get it and you're good to go. We had Grant Lennon, that's the most popular podcast. The way he works his stuff, he'll take a year, 2, 3 years off or whatever, come on, make a ton of money in a short period of time, and then dip for a few more years, just live off that money. And if you continue to build your personal brand, you're good at all these skills, you can literally just show up somewhere, market your stuff, you know how to do it correctly, make a few 6 figures and dip. Same with a lot of the guys I've seen, bigger guys in this space. It's like the Alan Sultanic guy that I talked about all the time that I learned a lot of this marketing from. He was like, I try to get 10 years of living expenses every time I start an offer. So I'll start my offer, I'll get 10 years of living expenses, and he lives in a nice place. It's millions of dollars on this offer. And then it's done. And then, okay, now I'm just going to take X amount of years off and I'll come back and do something else and just sustain the personal brand. Now he's building a really big platform. It's different. He's trying to work every day and not take time off like that. But that's how he thought about it before too. And I noticed a lot of the info guys are like that. It's just like juice this out for a little bit, make all this money, leave. Nothing else allows you to do that. You cannot do that. You can't get on Amazon and say, okay, hey, John, I'm going to do $300K profit this month on Amazon. Then I'm not going to sell anymore. Yeah, dude, how am I going to do that? Do I have $1 million at my disposal to spend on products? Like, it just would be impossible, or any other business model for that matter. You can't just, well, I guess you can on TikTok shop or whatever, but not really. You can't just every few months make one TikTok shop video and it pops off. It's not the way it works. You have to have your own offer. You have to control your own traffic, and you have to have your own offer. You have to have the systems in place. But it's just crazy that so much money can be made in such short period of time. And then if you even it out from the months, you're making a ton of money per month. So you don't even work those other months, which is like the biggest, I don't know, my favorite part about all this, why I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah, I like that kind of model too. And I was just like thinking back to the math we did at the beginning of the podcast, and just thinking about if you had a high ticket offer and you sold it for $5K, we'll just relate it back to reselling because most of you guys resell. To do that, if you're lucky, you have to do $50K in sales. Pretty much, right? And you'd have to leverage $25,000 in order to do, most likely, like these are just rare numbers, versus maybe you every day on Instagram, whether it's cringy or not, you're like, hey, I'm looking for 3 people, like looking for 3 people this month, like have 1 spot left or whatever you're going to do. It only takes 1 person to do that. And then you have to figure out $25,000 worth of ASINs to buy, which is no easy feat in itself. So it's just a crazy model. And I do kind of like that idea. I think it almost makes you see what's possible. Like, too, it's like, holy smokes, like we sold X amount of spots. Like, Jesus, like this is insane. So yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. Info is crazy. You want to break down some, like what you could do.
Yeah, that was
Different
the next
level.
thing. On the save wave league, dude. That's exactly what I was going to do.
Okay,
So
cool.
a lot of guys, and I hate to just address Amazon sellers because what if like way more people watch this?
Well,
But
we know, so it's but
yeah,
you can transfer it to anything. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, maybe you can, as I talk about this and break down some offers here, maybe you can think of something that really throws a wrench of like, well, build an offer for this. And like, think on this of like something that you really think I couldn't build an offer on. Some kind of niche thing, not like just fitness or whatever, but maybe make it specific. I don't know, something like that. See if I can if I can build it. Cause I got decently, this is probably my best skill of this stuff is creating these offers because and people go on this pod after the pod and they talk to us about what they're doing or whatever. And a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to start this. People love a course, man. They think they're going to make a course and they're going to sell it 10, 15 times a month. They're going to charge $300 and they're going to be rich. It's like, that's not how it's going to work, man, at all. But that's what people love the course thing. The course model is just trash now. Courses are so not commoditized or whatever. Like everybody has a course. You can find courses anywhere. You can find courses online for free. You can find stuff on YouTube. Courses are not a great like sole info model. And then memberships, like I said before, recurring, yeah, it sounds awesome. But like when you do the math on that, it's ridiculous how many people you have to get in there. And people are going to churn in 3 months. That's just like the numbers. They churn pretty fast. You have to constantly be getting people in, and you never make that much money unless you can get tons and tons of people. And then if that's the case, you probably could have done high ticket. I'm a big fan of the high ticket, but some sort of system to do this is better. And a lot of people too, they talk about, I'm going to start this free Facebook group, and then I'm going to get people coaching clients from the free Facebook group. You don't even understand what that means either. It's like the free Facebook group is so hard. You have to be there all the time. And the biggest problem with running those groups, and it's the same with recurring, you have to constantly create new content, like constantly. We've invented this series for the podcast because we're like, what are we going to even talk about anymore on solo episodes? We had to invent this series. But then we'll have to invent a new series. And it's not easy to do that and then just like talk about it. We might have just got lucky. We might not ever have a good idea again. So that's what happens. You have to constantly make new content or have people asking questions, and you have to fight for their attention. There's free attention of like, do they really care this much to be active in your Facebook group when they're on Twitter all day? They're on Instagram all day. They're on YouTube. They have a job they're going to. They want to eat food. They got to go to the gym. But then you have to weave yourself in there and completely, I don't know, mesmerize them with value until they think they can pay you a lot of money. So that's not even the best way to go by either. I think something in the middle of where you have something really low cost, a cheaper course or a cheaper membership type thing to get people in the door used to paying you, like you had said, the $300 example. So they'll pay you money and really trust you and know, okay, I'm so I'm buying this thing for $10 from this dude, but he's giving me thousands of dollars worth of value. And then eventually, hopefully you make them money and nurture them enough to where they'll pay you more for the implementation and scaling your thing. And then after that, probably something like $20 a month group, $50 a month group, then a course of $700 to $1,500. Maybe you can even skip that and go straight to high ticket, anywhere from 3 to 5K. And then boom, after that, you can do a 20K, 25K mastermind situation. That's the model I like for the Amazon thing, but Amazon has infinite things you could do. You can do a leads list variation. I've told so many people different offers, and every time they're like, well, that is a pretty good idea. So yeah, there's unlimited possibilities there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think some of probably the best I've ever seen. I mean, I like the challenge model seems pretty good. Like, or the small cohort model where you're kind of doing maybe, let's say, 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And for those, it's what a lot of people don't realize is like there's always a back end. So if you're doing like a challenge and that's not even in the Amazon space, let's just say it's $200. So it's great for the person who's doing it because, for 7 days, they're getting $200 times however many people go in there. Let's say it's 100. So they're making 20 grand for 1 week worth of work, and they would probably do it anyway. So that's great. Usually they'll have a full blown course. Hey, if you like this, I got this course. And that's probably going to be, I don't know, anywhere from $500 to $1,000. And then they'll do a upsell on that, like a course end, like for the first month we'll give you the free access to our community, but then after that it's $50-$60. So they have like 3 different chances to kind of get you. So one person going into that could really result in like, I don't know, like $2,000 in the long run. And it kind of defeats, think about if you had a $20 per month community. Well, that person would have to spend 10 months in there. But not only do you get them for $200 for the challenge, then you'll get them, let's just say for those 10 months, you get again. So like you basically double it. So I think that's a good one. I don't know how good it is, but like I always thought like the free group was such a great way. Like, oh, we're gonna build a Discord and we're gonna get all these email addresses and this and that. And what that really results in is a ton of bullshit spam people that you're constantly fighting with. People who, like, when you're not paying for something, I'm not saying you have to pay for everything, but it's just different. Like, versus selling someone something, it's like they're kind of not really into it. Because if they were really into it, they would have just paid for a course or joined a paid group. They're just not as serious. Like, if you want a taste of something, you could go on YouTube. Like, you don't need to be in a Discord, you don't need to do all this other stuff. So I think that's kind of model's been like kind of like flipped on its head. But I'd agree with you. I really like the high ticket model. um for sure. I think that's kind of the best. So I do think there's that. So basically you could do like a paid membership group, I would say would be one. You could do coaching calls. Then I would say like a course, then maybe like cohort, 4 to 6 months, a little higher ticket, and then obviously a high ticket would be like $5,000 mentorship, and then yeah, like mastermind event could be like up there.
Yeah, I think high ticket has to be your end goal because like the
Sure.
it's just not exactly, not that you have to, I guess. There's other ways you can do it, but high ticket needs to be close to the end goal unless you could just constantly create new small offers to offer people. Like you have a different course every week on certain sections of something, which I can't even like think about in my head, so I haven't really thought that deep into it. But another big part of this is just uniqueness as well. Like I think I see this happen in the Amazon space and other spaces too. But they're like, well, this guy's killing it with this model. I'm going to just do that type of funnel. These are not models; these are funnels. He's doing that good at that funnel. I'm going to do that funnel. Man, marketing is being unique and standing out. If you do the same funnel as the guy killing it, you think you're going to beat that guy? No, you're not. You have to do something different. This is why this seminar even worked. Is because I did something completely different that no one had seen before. I couldn't find it anywhere else. There was nobody that had done anything like it. So that was why it was so unique. I couldn't do it again. If it's super repeatable and it's super copyable, you probably can't do it over and over. But you can think of something unique for all scenarios of something that maybe other people aren't doing. I should have mentioned this. Another model I like and what I tell most people is, dude, if you don't want to do a bunch of marketing, you don't want to like be obliged to nurture these people and do reels every single day, throw a Calendly in your bio and then put it as a sales call. Make the sales call very exclusive. So like weed people out. So you don't just have like spam, basically people get on there wasting your time, and then sell them a $10,000, $15,000 info product. And if you do that 5 times a year, you're making $50,000 to $75,000, and you do it 5 times. Like you just keep that in there. You do your day to day, and you just keep that in your bio. And I think that people don't understand how simple that is. You get a few thousand followers, you're providing value every day, and you just have a calendar and you sell something that you might think, why would anyone ever pay me 10 to 15,000? Dude, people pay $50,000 for stuff. They pay $75,000 for stuff. The money is not the problem. Everybody loves to charge nothing for their coaching, which fine, I guess, but you need to charge a lot more money than you think because it's going to be way harder than you think to fill on this thing. And you're going to be invested in this person. You don't want a $1,500 person paying you. You want somebody that has more money and has more like worth to themselves. Not that if you don't have that much money, you don't have worth, but I get what I'm saying. But the more you charge, the more they're going to stay in there and the cooler people they're going to be. Everybody I charge more for my stuff, way cooler than the people I charge less for. It happens every single time. It's just the way it works. Like look at real life businesses. Like if these free groups work, you know what they would have? Lamborghini would be giving out free samples of stuff outside, or they would start a free. They don't do that at all. And what places even do that? Costco gives free samples, but you have to pay a membership to get into Costco. So you're just kind of getting nurtured in Costco. And that's literally what the model is. You pay a membership every single month. You go in there, they nurture you with these foods, and then you go buy the food. That's why it works. They don't stand outside and go, here's a bunch of free samples. They don't want that audience there. You can't just give away free stuff and expect people to pay you. Those are two different types of people. So I don't like that at all. And I don't ever see that work very much unless someone has a mass amount of traffic, like a Tate or somebody, then you can kind of do whatever you want. But for the average person, do not do a free group into a paid thing. It's very hard to do that.
Yeah. And so speaking from mistakes, like one of the hardest parts too is when you have a free group and then you go to paid and then you have like now 2 separate groups. And like now you got to post 2 places, or like, oh, I can't post in the free group because I'm going to do this in the paid group. It just becomes like this massive like headache. And then you start resenting the free group because like they're not paying, they're giving you the most headaches
Yeah.
versus the paid group, and you're just like, why am I even doing this? And then you're like, well, I can't just shut down it just becomes like this whole thing. And I think if I had to do it all over again, and if I do decide to do something, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, I would definitely go like high ticket, because for me, I've taken a couple courses, let's just say in a certain area, and it's like, damn, I paid, let's just say, $1,500. I would have rather paid someone $2,000 to just walk me through the thing.
Mhm.
Like, I got the basics, which was fine, but then, kind of the nitty gritty, or like other things you could do, or like how to set this up, where do you find that? Like, could have been hammered out probably in like 2 or 3 coaching calls.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of important too. And I do like the fact too of high ticket, because people lose interest. Like, you literally, like, they're gonna go into your group or whatever, or your course, they're not gonna watch the videos or not do the thing, and then they're gonna be on to the next thing. At least with high ticket, I feel like they're kind of, it's more like, okay, I did this step, what's next? And I think that makes it so much easier for the coach and the person, because like you're now on the same wavelength. Or, I'm stuck here, can you help me? And that's like, yeah, just do this or this thing or that thing. And I think that is kind of why high tickets probably the future in courses. Like, I don't know if you see it, but on YouTube, like, that's the trend. Everyone's releasing like an 8-hour course or a 4-hour masterclass, and with the hopes that, and a lot of people are doing this, have software and groups and other bullshit that they're like pushing. They're just not making it for the good of the world. But I think that is why you're seeing that. It's like, okay, like, here's all this stuff. They get you, and I think they're doing it for 6 or 8 hours. It's gonna overwhelm the shit out of you.
Then you pay them.
Oh
Yeah,
my
how
god!
do I do this stuff?
Like, oh, let me just go work with that person. They'll help me implement all this. Like, that's kind of the game there. And, it is what it is. And I think that's smart. Like, why not? I mean, they'll be that person that's going to sit through the 8 hours and do all the stuff, and then maybe they'll work with them. But like, that's kind of the main thing you see. Or the video includes, you know, all the softwares they use, and like, guess what? There are all these links down below, and they're an affiliate. Like, whatever, they're helping you, so you should give back to them. So I think that's kind of like where it's going, and like, why make a course? And I think the hard part about a course too, it gets outdated really quick.
Yep.
Like, if you're doing, like, let's just say a main software, or even Amazon, like, how many times have they changed their dashboard?
Yeah.
Like, now the account health page isn't there anymore, and you have like 3 videos on that, and it's like, huh, okay, like, do you go back and redo all those videos? Like, it just becomes like this massive like pain in the ass. And I don't know, I do just think high ticket is probably the best, and I do think everyone could offer a high ticket program too. You just have to figure out what you're going to offer, even if you're just like, hey, for example, if I'm like, hey, I'll show you how to sell on Amazon, and maybe you just got on a call, it's like, okay, what do you want to know? Give them that information. Okay, did you do this stuff? I think accountability is more important, and that's what you're really buying when you're buying like a high-end mentorship. I think that's more important than actually like, what do you have to do?
Yeah, I meant to talk about that the whole time, but I didn't really get into that. But I've said it 1,000 times on here. But I guess if you're a new viewer, yeah, I explain this a lot. Well, first I'll say on the thing you said, those 8-hour courses, that is genius. The thing is, give information, sell implementation. That's the whole thing there. That's what people are doing. If you're ever getting something for free, you are the product every single time. A lead mag, information. How do I implement this stuff? Pay them for implementation. 8-hour course. What do I do with all this? They help you implement. That's how that funnel works, which is a really good funnel. And it's kind of one of the things you have to do to compete these days, because there's so much information. You need to have like high quality information and give away stuff people are selling so you can sell higher ticket stuff. But anyways, all these coaching products, and this is what people do need to understand, this is very important, is maybe you think you don't have anything in your life or anything you've ever done that you could sell, or, speaking off the Amazon completely, but let's just say you're a fit guy. that you're like relatively fit. And I know this happens because I forgot to tell you this, weird timing as well. One of my old coaching clients who got up to a decent bit on Amazon, but didn't really do that well. And I kind of quit at the same time that he came in, like a few months after. And I was just like, dude, you know what? I'll still mentor you. Just don't do Amazon. Start an info product. What do you know about? And he's like, I'm pretty fit and everything. He just sold $6,000 this week, a $6,000 program on Instagram. And this guy, he paid less than that for my program. So I did make him money at the end of the day, a year later, 2 years later, whatever. But I told him then, I was like, don't do the Amazon thing, do info, do something you're good at, and just post, man. And somebody will pay you a lot of money at some time. They'll pay you more than you paid me to tell you this information. And then I helped him and like set stuff up. But I got to talk to him soon to see how much he's making, overall. But he just said he made $6,000 this week. But it's just all you're doing is selling somebody a transformation. You have something that can transform somebody else's life. And you're not even really selling just the solution. You're selling how to keep them accountable, keeping them motivated. That's all you're selling. You can just replace it with whatever. Amazon coaching, Shopify coaching, Etsy coaching. It's all the same thing. It's just you're teaching people how to make money. And you're just packaging it in a way that they find appealing. And you're trying to transform their life. You're not even really selling them how to make money. You're selling them why they need to make money and how this money is going to change their life. So the levels just keep going down there to where it doesn't really matter what you sell or what you do. You can create an info product that will change someone's life, that will make you rich. Like that you can sell to a lot of people and you can charge a lot of money for it. There's almost everybody has some. I can't think of a person that just has zero anything good in their life, that they can't sell one thing. And if you have a job, guess what? You got the job somehow. So you can sell other people how to get that job, how to apply for jobs, how to move up in your company. There's guys that have high ticket programs, $10,000, $20,000 that just show you how to move up the corporate ladder. That seems like the most reverse thing
how to get
ever.
a raise, how to
get a raise. Are you kidding me? Yeah. And people charge $10,000 for that type of stuff. Like I'll sit there and talk with you and teach you how to get a raise. How to quit being a pussy, I guess, and ask for a raise. I don't know. But that's that simple. But if someone can do that type of stuff, like the possibilities are infinite. And like anyone can do it. So if you're listening to this, start an info product, man. If you need ideas, you can message me on Instagram. I'll try to create you a little offer. I did that for people after my seminar. I tried to create a bunch of different offers for people.
Yeah, I think that's like the hardest part. It just becomes like imposter syndrome where you're just like, oh, like everything I've done, everyone already knows this, everything's so basic, but it's just really not the case for a lot of different things. Like, how to, like, for example, Drew, like, he turned 1 year older and got off his like parents' health insurance. And I was like, bro, like, this is what you have to do. Like, it's so simple or whatever, but like, he had no idea. Like, and he's like, I have like 5 days. Like, oh, just go to this website, like, it'll be fine. So like just little stuff like that like you take for granted, or like I could probably sell something like, when should you quit your 9-to-5 job? Like based on your side hustle. And like, here are my finances. This is what I was thinking about. These are the questions I asked. I did this whole thing, and it's just sitting in a notebook somewhere. But like someone else would probably, here's like the 10 questions I asked myself. Like I had this whole chart and all this other stuff. Like, I don't know how much someone would pay for that, but like there's just certain parts or instances of your life where you're like, I just need to know this like now. And I will pay for that. So I just think you just can't overthink it. And I also don't think I think one of the biggest hesitance, it's like it almost seems slimy, like to sell something, but it's really not if you're doing it like the right way. Like I think you really have to believe in what you're selling and the opportunity. That's probably where you basically fell pretty much short on the whole Amazon thing. It's like, I could have kept the school group going infinitely, but I was just like, this just doesn't seem right. Like people are sad when I stopped it, but I'm just like, no, it just doesn't feel right. So I think you have to just really believe in it and know that it really is a good opportunity, and you will attract those people if you make like the right content.
Yep. Well, that's a pretty good way to end it. I'll do a quick little summary. I don't know if there's another thing we're gonna talk about that I am more pro than starting an info product. I do think it's by far the best thing you can do. It's the easiest thing to get into, and it has the highest upside. It's ridiculous. That's why everyone's doing it, and why all these people that are selling you their models actually just do info. That's like the kicker. I guess if anybody has any I don't know, thoughts, comment below on what we've said. And if we've inspired you to start an info product, message me or message John or whatever. And I'll try to help you ideate on what to do, marketing and stuff. I'm decent at this stuff. I think I made decent money from it, and I haven't tried very hard. Could have made a lot more probably. Next episode, we will probably talk about service-based businesses. I think that's what I had in mind, or freelance, service-based copywriting type stuff. We'll probably put it all. I don't know a ton about that stuff, but I know some general things about it. So we'll talk about that. That'll be pretty cool if you want to get into some skill service-based thing. That's kind of a hot topic at the moment too. So we'll talk about that next episode. But do you have any parting words for the people?
That's it. Figure out what you're good at, how to sell it, go high ticket.
If you could just take 2 seconds and subscribe to this YouTube channel, we would greatly appreciate it. We're trying to get to 5K subscribers by the end of the year, and the more subscribers we have, the better guests we can get for you. So you literally just take 2 seconds right now, hit subscribe. It will also let you know when new episodes go live and everything we're up to. Thank you so much.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment podcast. What are we doing today?
Final episode of the Blueprint series. Unfortunately, this hasn't got as many views as I would have hoped it got, because I feel like this has been our most valuable podcast that we've done and put the most thought into it. But you know what? It'll live on the internet. Maybe it'll get big one day. But today we're talking about freelance jobs, a pretty broad category, but stuff like sales, copywriting, design, editing. You're trading skill for money directly. Probably one of the simplest things to start after you have a skill. I'll go over a little overview, and then we'll do our normal pros, cons, upsides, and we changed it last time, but I already forgot, so we'll get into that later on. But for some background, I haven't done much of this. I've done it for free. I've consulted people for free, and I've helped people with their offer type stuff for free. And then you were a copywriter, obviously, but not really freelance because it was a job. But so I guess you never tried freelance, right?
I've never tried freelance. I've helped friends, family, kind of like you, someone DMs or oh, this isn't converting, or I don't know, and it's like, hey, I just looked at your website, do this, do that, kind of thing. So not in a here's $5,000 to rewrite my website.
But personally, I've worked with a bunch of these people. I've worked with somebody that we're going to have on soon. I was just talking about the design my funnel for an offer I built, this type of thing. I know somebody who does sales, high ticket sales, a bunch of people that do high ticket sales. So I have a decent background of what this is. Anyways, some platforms people use: cold outreach on socials, obviously Twitter, Instagram, referrals, word of mouth, which is probably your best option here, Upwork, Fiverr, LinkedIn, and then there's freelance communities, so Facebook groups and things like that. Overall, you just get money by getting clients and then delivering a result, or not delivering a result. Maybe you just get paid up front, but you can do rev splits, or you can just do, a simple retainer. This is great for people with a skill, low capital, and willingness to hustle. That was my AI note there at the end. Willingness to hustle. I guess you have to do that no matter what. But do you want to give any more overview on that?
Yeah, I think this could be really good if you actually have a 9-to-5 and you have a skill. I was a marketer, so there's a lot that I could have done. I could have done social media consulting. I could have done copyright consulting. I guess technically now we could probably do podcast consulting. I mean, we did pass 100 episodes. I think sometimes a lot of people overthink it, where it's just I always like to give the analogy of when you talk to a friend. So if I talk to one of my friends and I was like, hey man, he's like, I want to start a podcast. And you're he's like, oh my God. And you're like, oh wow, I guess not everyone knows this. So I think a lot of people overthink stuff like that. But I think it's a really easy way to get started. And it's really easy. There's always, I feel like in the service kind of space, everyone could always use help with marketing or an outsider's perspective. I guess you could, if you wanted to break it down more, you could do accounting and stuff like that, which gets really sticky. So I think it's a really good opportunity for most people if you just want to generate cash and don't want to spend any money.
Yep. And I forgot to include, this kind of, I guess we'll include agency type stuff in here, because this stuff evolves into an agency if you get good enough, get a big enough thing. It's technically like an agency, but you can just also do freelance. So that's all combined in one. And also, guys, we've probably missed tons of different business models, but this is what we kind of know about. So that's why we've talked about over these 4 episodes. We've missed AI stuff. We've missed tons of things like that. But I don't know about you, but I don't know a ton about that thing. So why would we even speak on that?
All I know is the future, supposedly.
Yeah, it's the future. Anyways, we'll get to the pros. Very low barrier to entry, which is a common theme throughout a lot of the stuff we've talked about. And this one's super low barrier to entry. I mean, no product, no tech, just skill. You can do this literally from your phone. You get cash fast if you negotiate the right way and get paid. You can get paid the second you get the deal closed, or somebody can stiff you. That's another combo. We'll talk about that. No overhead, no inventory, software, or fees. Scalable through price and referrals. So you can start at $500 client. You can move that up to a $5,000 a month client. People do $100,000 a month. You do rev share. I've been watching a lot of Jeremy Haynes recently. He's like, marketer, I sent you that video. Mm-hmm. He tries to get $100,000 a month per client. And if you get like 10 of those, you make $1 million a month. And he needs to get his client to $1 million a month so he can take 10%, which is a cool way that he's done that. He has like an agency marketing model. Yeah. And my next note here, can transition into agency or info product. You can also turn your skill. I know a lot of people learn these skills. They're like, hey, one of the biggest one, Mason Cardinal, he's a copywriter, but he runs an offer. I don't even know, probably does over $500,000, over $1 million a month from copywriting. It teaches other people to copyright. So you get that initial skill, you turn into an info product. And not only it's easier to turn into info products. We've talked about the Amazon stuff. Maybe you're really good at selling on Amazon, or maybe you're really good at X business, but none of those skills translate to an info product. That's why you see so many people failing and doing the wrong things, because they don't know any skills to get there. They're just like, well, I'm good at Amazon, so I can do that. That's what I thought. It's not the way it works. You need the skills to even start the info business, and a lot of these skills will lead into that. And there's high control. You're not at the mercy of a platform or trends. There's cons, I was going to say, but trends for the most part, AI stuff is, but video editing, sales, copywriting, that stuff's never going to go out of style. That's kind of here to stay for the foreseeable future. But any other pros from you?
I think pros would be, at first, I guess kind of con is going to be like you have to hustle, but I think you can get like lots of referrals if you're good and you get repeat business. Like if you launch another offer, you're probably going to go to that guy again because he did a really good job. So I think that is a pro. And I think another pro would be like, it's pretty flexible. Like you kind of control the hours or how much you want to work. So I think that could be good. And then another pro I'd probably say is high ticket. Like if you have a $5,000, copywriting thing or a $5,000 funnel or a website redo, I think you don't need many clients for most people, which could be a huge pro. And then another pro, if you're working like a 9 to 5, you might have some access to like for example, something I used to have access to HubSpot. And so you can get access to software that you might not have to buy. You could just kind of use the companies. Not suggesting anyone do that, but that's definitely an option as well.
Yeah. Some cons, and I think there is a lot of cons to this. I'm not.
Agree.
I've heard lots of negative things about freelance stuff. Like I have experienced negative stuff. So this is. I wouldn't recommend a ton of people to do this unless you have some innate skill that you really love to do. You like really love copywriting. You already are a copywriter. You really love sales. You want to get into high ticket sales. If you have to kind of learn the skill, you're not really pumped about it. I don't know if it is the best thing to do. I think there's other ways that you can make money. But anyways, one con, time for money. Your income is tied to your calendar. So you basically have a job. You're just buying yourself a job, or not buying yourself, but getting yourself a job. You must be great at client acquisition. If you can't sell, you don't eat. That's tough. I mean, so no matter what skill you have, you kind of have to be able to sell, especially yourself, to get some of these jobs and clients. Inconsistent income, unless you build, constant outreach systems, or you have the word of mouth, like you said, constant like that. There's no equity or resell at all. You can't sell yourself as a skill. You're the product, and it's hard to scale without changing the model with the team or a higher ticket. I mean, you could scale this up monetarily, but like how many clients can you get without building a big team? Turning it into an agency or info product, it's kind of impossible. And another con that I think is probably the most negative of anything, and why I don't recommend people get into this, is now that the economy is like global, that you can get these people from India, you can get people from China, you can get all these people around the world. And there's AI. How valuable is a really good copywriter? Because is a company going to pay a guy $10,000 to write this really good copy every single month? or pay $3,000 for like 30 copywriters with AI to generate loads of stuff, and you can split test all this stuff. It's kind of a race to the bottom. And it's like this with all of these skills. I think it's called commoditized is when that happens. Yeah. Like it's just a race to the bottom of like who can charge the cheapest and do like not a shit job and get stuff done, which is really negative. And you can see that now if you get on Fiverr. I was just looking for stuff yesterday on Fiverr, trying to source stuff for whatnot. And it was like these people, like, okay, the top was $100 and then it's like $50. Then it's like $7. It's like $4 for what I want. Now, is that going to be the best quality of work? Probably not. But if I hire 10 people for $4 each, I'll probably get better results than the one for 50. It's like, that makes it terrible. And what are they doing? How are they even doing that on $4? Well, they're from some foreign country. They can do it in an hour or two, and that's like good money from that. But you can't work for $4 for 2 hours. Like what is that? You might as well just pick up change. So that's a huge negative to me, and why I don't know if it's the best thing to do. If you're in there to learn the skill, that's fine. But if that's the future, you think you're going to do that, you're going to have to get really, really good and get really good word of mouth to you to make a lot of money.
I would agree. That's probably one of the biggest cons, kind of AI. I mean, you could be like, hey, I'm doing an offer on how to be a better soccer player or something. AI, rate me something in Russell Brunson's voice. This is my off, right? And you'd be, I would say, 80% of the way there. And you could probably convert a lot of people just based on that. So I think AI probably is one of the biggest things, especially for copywriting. I would say for design, it's nowhere close to kind of based on playing around with it a little bit. So I think one of the biggest cons as well is you have clients. While obviously that means you have business, I did a lot of client work when I was doing copywriting and marketing, and it's a constant, like, you have to be very clear in the services, right? If you say, I'm going to rewrite your website, right? How many revisions are you doing? Like, you're going back and forth with these people too. Like, you are the expert per se, but they're going to push back on you. You're going to be like, this should be the headline. They're like, no, but we like this headline. It's too salesy or whatever. So then you have these like constant clash going back and forth with these people. And I think that is probably one of the worst things. And then you're like, all right, we'll do it your way. And then it gets no results. And they're like, well, this guy's an idiot. While that's really not, kind of, we saw this all the time. We used to do this at our agency. It's like, we'll run our copy versus your copy. Our copy always won, and they're like, okay. But it took like a long time to get there. So I think that's a big con. I think depends on kind of the size you're working with. A lot of these people have terms. So they'll be like, yeah, it's 30 or 60 days before you get paid. So if you start a job, then you finish a job, you could be like 90, 120 days out from getting that money, which could be super annoying. And then you kind of have to be like a collections person, which is annoying. And then you already kind of touched on it, but I just think the amount of cold outreach. I get 10 email or 10 GMs a day. Oh, hey, I want to grow your school community. I don't even have a school community. Hey, like, do you want us to optimize the YouTube titles of your podcast? Like, it's just a lot of pitching, and I just like delete all of them. But I think it kind of has like a bad rap where it's like, I don't even know these people and I just delete them all now. So I think that coldness is like, it's kind of what we talked about last episode. You have to wear all the hats. Like, you got to be the sales, you got to be the accounting, you got to be the service provider, you got to keep the clients happy. There's just a lot you need to juggle.
Yeah, and on that note, I think this is something that I talk about this with you a ton of, like, I don't know, people think, okay, I'm going to do this one skill for somebody, or I'm going to do this one thing and then it's going to work out. But the problem is all these things, like, to get a sale, there's a ton of stuff in the whole chain of the sales cycle. So let's say you're a copywriter, and I'm sure you went through this when you worked. You wrote really good copy for somebody. Let's say it generated like a 10%, 20% click-through rate, something ridiculous to get people in. Well, if their sales team or like their product on the other side sucks, well, then you suck. Because now you didn't get any conversions, but that has nothing to do with you. And you're going to try to communicate, hey, you got to get a better sales team. Like, this isn't very good. Or the exact opposite can happen. Maybe you have a copywriter or some front end marketer type person that pulls all these leads in that just suck, that have no intent, they're just curious. They're just there. And the salespeople are like, why do all these leads suck? Like, they don't even know what they're buying. Well, how do you fix that whole chain? That's very difficult. And you can take on clients and people can say, hey man, you're getting no results for us. Man, you've talked about this, like it's kind of happened to us at times. It's like, well, that's not our fault. We're providing the service we're providing, but like your shit's really messed up everywhere else. So that's not our problem. That's your problem. So but you're not going to be able to say that to a client because they're just going to go, well, all right, we'll fire you. We'll get somebody else that'll say that. That's another huge problem too.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's exactly what we were doing. We were generating leads for insurance companies. So basically they wanted like basically salespeople. So we'd like write an email like, oh, we got this PDF, like this is the email script that closed $1 million clients or whatever. So they do that and like, hey, my email generated you 100 leads. And they're like, well, we didn't close any of the leads. So it's like, my job was to generate you the leads, to write copy that generated these leads. Or what you were saying, it's like, oh, it's a low, like they're not converting or whatever. So then it's like you just play around. It's like, okay, like you already know, but like you mess around with the form. It's like we were only asking for like first name, last name, email. Now we're gonna do phone number, how much you make. So like not as many people are gonna enter that information, but you sometimes with some clients you don't even get to that stage. Like you generate 100 leads, none of them close. Like you're an idiot. Like I'm done. Mm-hmm. So it's a really hard. Like even if you do your job, or it could go the other way. Especially that's where it gets really sticky. I generate Drew 100 leads. He's like, none of these convert. I'm not paying you. And it's like I already did all this work. And you're like, well, you said you generate. Like you have to be very clear that I said I would generate you leads, not contracted agents, not whatever course sales or whatever. My job is to generate you leads or increase your conversion rate, and like what you do with that, like that's on you.
Yep. I'm so surprised that we know what we're talking about as much of this. I thought about this podcast. I'm like, maybe we don't have a ton to say on this, but we're 16 minutes in, and I think this is
that's one of the main reasons I didn't do freelance copywriting. Like maybe it was a mistake. I probably would have liked it more if I got, like, I always thought of it as more corporate. This was kind of, when was this? Like 7 years ago. Like I would have probably loved to work with an Amazon FBA coach and write their copy if I understood and it was like still a good offer and stuff like that. So I always thought that could be a great opportunity, but it goes to client work. Like you have to set it up. Like they want to do phone calls. It's just so annoying. And that's kind of why I got out of working a 9 to 5. Even like as a 9 to 5 person, you still have to deal with the client. Like the salesperson like gets the money, then you have to service the client, and then the client's mad. They go to the sales rep, and the sales rep's mad. It's just like so annoying. And it's like, bro, I did my job. You sold them like a false bag of goods. Like that's not my problem.
Yep.
So I do think there's like always that when you're doing this like service-based business, or like where I worked, you had to pay up front unless you like locked in like a year-long contract to kind of avoid like we did all this work.
Yep.
Now we're not going to get paid.
Well, let's talk about some high upside stuff because there is some high upside. Just like kind of best case scenario, what happens here? There's insane short-term cash potential. So people can close. You think about if you have a 5K offer where you do like build somebody's landing page and you can get 5 people in a month, and this is like not a ton of work you're doing. You just made $25,000, and this is pure profit. So this can you can have high influx months if you just get lucky with getting the right people, which is huge. I mean, that's not a lot of things you can do that fast, and especially if you're already good at something. To them, this seems like a massive deal, but to you, you're like, I can bang this out in a day, so it doesn't really matter to me. So I think that is a huge upside. It's a good stepping stone into higher leverage stuff like info and agency things. I mean, as much as I don't recommend this to people very much, I do think if I had to go back, I wish I would have kind of started this a little bit, at least learn to outreach, to get told no, to get people to delete my message, reach out, get on sales calls, try to pitch myself. I think that's like invaluable skills there. And if you can learn that stuff, you can just take it into so many different things. And I learned a lot just for doing free work for people and building somebody's funnel and doing these type of things. Like I wasn't very good at it, but I'm going to just do it just so I can get the experience and write, sales letters and things like that. It's very low stress to start. I think you just learn the skill and then, pretty simple type of thing. I don't think you're not leveraging money. You're not leveraging like tons and tons of time, I guess. So low stress. And you can freelance anonymously. You can do it. You don't have to have a public facing thing. You could just be some anon guy. I see guys on Twitter all the time that don't even have profile pictures that just, I just built this for this person that paid me $20K. Or you can build in public. And as you build in public, which are the guys that I think make a lot of money doing this. I know a guy that makes over $100,000 a month working for an FBA coach. He runs all of his funnel. He runs his webinar and things like that. And he makes over $100,000 a month because they split it in a good way. $100,000 profit a month just for building funnels. And that's pretty good. And you grow your personal brand so you can launch an info product. And that's exactly what he did. Probably made another $500,000. So this guy made a lot of money doing this exact type of thing with copyright.
That's pretty. I think some other big upside is it could be very repeatable. So if I make an FBA offer for you, it's going to be the same for someone else pretty much. Like the copy could be pretty much the same. Like when we did a lot of copy, you're just changing the headlines. For an FBA person who's going to start an Amazon business, they all want the same thing. They don't want a 9-to-5. They want financial freedom, like all the shit that like you see all over Instagram. So then you can apply that to Walmart. So like if you get the basics right, it's really, really easy. I think too, if you could get results, I think this is one of the almost a big con as well. If you don't have the proper tracking metrics in place, you are screwed because then it's just this he say she said, like how many, like what's the conversion, how many people you're sending there, stuff like that. So I think of a huge upside is if you do have stats. If I said, I helped Drew make $5,000 in profit, I changed his landing page, blah 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 blah. If they know who you are, it's really easy. Like if you have some sort of results before or after, here's his website then, here's his website now, here's the results. It's really easy to pitch stuff like that. And I think a huge upside, which I don't know if this is huge or more of a pro, I would say it's pretty easy to stand out. If you put in some work. Like if someone came to us and was like, hey, I saw like you were using the same thumbnail on your YouTube. Here's 10 thumbnails for 10 different episodes. Like I'm not expecting anyone to do that, but that was like, holy shit. Like whether they're good or not, I'd just be like, oh wow. That's something I could upload to YouTube literally right after this and see, hey, did it get more views? Or just see what they're like. A lot of the time you get like this like generic Loom video or hey, like I work with blah 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 people you've never heard of before. Or I've gotten it like a lot of times like I work with Miles, I work with Amazon Lit, and it's like no you don't do. Like you have like one follower. Like there's no way. Like stuff like that. So I think it's really easy to stand out and kind of make an impact. Or I'd make a Loom video of like going over your website, be like, dude, like if you just change this stuff. So I think it's really easy to stand out and then to show you do the effort. And it just makes it a little bit more easy. Like you were talking about doing something the other day and you're like, I know all the problems these people have. So like if you were like, bro, I bet people are churning. I bet this, I bet that. Then they'd be like, shit, all this is happening. Like this guy really knows. Or I'm willing to hop on the phone with him to see how much he knows about this. So I think it's really easy to stand out and get kind of attention and maybe book a high ticket job.
Yeah, 100%. If you know what you're talking about, if you can speak the person's language and like articulate their problems that they don't even really know that they're having, they can't even articulate these problems or understand why these problems are happening, but you can articulate it. Yeah, you have a free and clear path to make a ton of money, which I think is maybe I will do that in the future. I would just have to find somebody that I would want to work with that have, the right type of problems. And what I'm running into now, so this is a bit off topic, but we'll get back into the freelance stuff a little bit. We've kind of said everything there is. We can kind of just chat. And we're going to do too on this episode. I think we should do an overview of everything we've talked about last 4. I don't want to make a dedicated episode, but we could. I don't know. We'll probably talk about that too. But yeah, I'm running into now, and this is kind of, I guess, one of these cons that's happening right now, is I've joined these groups. I've got up with some of these people in this, in the whatnot niche. And I do think there's huge, like someone can be Ty Lopez, the Miles, these type of guys who generate tons of money in these coaching spaces of Whatnot, because there's not anybody doing it right now. And the sales message there is really easy, in my opinion, because it's so simple to start, like easier than anything else. And the profit is so high. Buy stuff for $1, sell for $3, you're making $1.50. So there's not much like that on the whole internet. But my problem is I don't think people see the vision. Like they don't believe in themselves enough to know, okay, I can do this. I can be like not 20K a month, not 50K a month, but you can make like 400, 500 grand a month doing this, like being the first mover on this. And then two, they just are just non-responsive. Like I'm joining some of this stuff and I'm like, hey, do you want to get on a call? You want to do this? And it's just like, don't even reply. I just don't even care. And then it makes me think, well, I'm definitely not going to do this with this guy because he won't even reply to me. If I give him 50 clients for coaching, we're going to get so many refunds. It's not even going to be worth it because he's not even replying to me. He's definitely not going to reply to these coaching clients. So it's just like difficult to find the right person for the job. And you don't want to be picky because you got to get a client. But me, I can be picky because I don't need the money. But I couldn't imagine someone just going through this. And I have some social status on the internet. So people can look me up and know who I am. But if you're somebody who has no followers and you don't have any money, I could see where that would just be like a minefield going through of how many people are going to screw you, how many people are going to be terrible to work with. And then it's like, are you even good enough to really produce results? Very difficult learning curve to get over and just building your confidence up. Because I'm experiencing it right now. Of like, I don't even know how I'm going to make this work because all these people are just no self-belief or not self-belief, but they don't see the vision. Like I can see the vision of it. They just kind of are like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I got to sell them the vision. I guess that's my fault, but it's difficult.
Yeah, I think that's the hard part too. And we've talked about this prior when you're kind of like, you almost think everyone's like you. Like, oh, everyone wants a $500,000 Whatnot. Like, imagine doing $500,000 in a month on Whatnot. And for us, we're like, oh shit, like this is what you do, blah blah blah. And then other people are like, dude, that's not like I don't even want anywhere close to that. So like you almost have to find someone that matches your vision or has that much ambition as well. And I think you also run into, I'll just say it, a lot of ego. Like when you're kind of like if you were to approach like someone maybe with like an FBA course or something, like bro, like you stop selling, like you don't even know what you're talking. Like you're gonna get like pushback like that. It's like I know what I'm doing, but meanwhile you could probably blow up their coaching program because, well, yeah, you used to sell. Now you don't have to gatekeep anything. Like it's just a whole different ball game. So I think there's a lot of ego involved. Like, oh, like this guy shits on Amazon all day on his podcast. Like, I'm not going to work with him. But meanwhile, he could help you greatly. So I think there's a lot of that. I think going back to the Whatnot thing, now that I think about it, I think a lot of people might, which is a huge advantage, I think, for most people who are doing it. I know you're kind of talking about like helping people blow up an offer in this space, but I think for most people to start Whatnot, I think people hate sales and the idea of them just having to sell. Be on camera, be like, hey, look at this phone, everyone, let's go. Like, I think a lot of people, that's not natural for them. And I know there's like faceless and stuff like that, but like, I think we've kind of come to the conclusion, like, you have to show your face. You have to be like somewhat entertaining, or maybe, yes, you're not showing your face, but you're opening like packs of cards or something. That's just very different. So I think that could be like a big hurdle for some people as well. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. And you want to work with the right person too. Like you don't want to partner with someone and then you're like, "Oh man, like this guy is like full of shit. Like this is not good." So I think it's really hard to kind of find like the perfect person to kind of do that with, but I don't know.
Yeah, the perfect person right now is Levy. So Levy, if you're somehow watching this, dude, I will make you so rich. I reached out to him, and but he has some other plans in the works. But I would love to work with him because I think he's like absolutely killing it, and I do think that me and him could make loads of money. And I will keep insisting until he blocks me, just because I enjoy talking to him too. He's around my age; it will work. But yeah, the thing about the sales, getting on camera and selling stuff. You think that because you know a lot about stuff, but if somebody doesn't know a lot, they don't really know that you have to reframe it to where that's not what it is. Because whatever you tell people it is what they're going to think it is. Let's say someone doesn't really know, like that's not sales. Let's just say, hey, you're just talking to people. You're just having fun on live stream. You can just reframe that. And if someone doesn't really know, they're not going to look at it like that. Now, if I get on a call, let's say I get on a sales call, I'm trying to convince somebody that Whatnot's good, join my program. And I say, yeah, you just got to learn sales skills and be like really entertaining or no one's going to watch your shit. Then they're going to go, okay, well, that seems really difficult. But if I said, it's really like a fun, enjoyable time overall. It's like a family venture almost. You get on there, you just kind of talking to the viewer. You don't really have to hard sell. You can do whatever you want. You can just kind of just chill and just have your product up there. Then they're like, oh, that seems simple. You want to make everything way simpler. Where, I mean, you didn't see it as simple because you already know it's not simple, but you can't let people know that. And their perception of it is reality. So it doesn't really matter if it's simple or not. It's more of what they perceive it as. And this is like, that's sure both of our problems. We try stuff and we're like, whoa, this is way more difficult than we thought. But if we had no clue how difficult anything was, it'd be pretty easy to do stuff because you would just go, I'm not going to quit. This is really easy. I just got to figure it out. But now we're like, okay, this is more difficult. This is going to take a lot more time. And I think that is a huge problem. I heard this one thing. If you think about the past too much, you're depressed. If you think about the future, you have anxiety. If you do too much of one of those things, I mean, you just probably think about the future of everything way too much. Of just like, oh, this is going to be difficult. You do it with this pot. Like, oh man, what about this episode? It's like, dude, it doesn't even matter. You can't think about the future of it. It's going to cause anxiety. It's just like what's happening right now. It's irrelevant. But I think that is our disadvantage because we talk about all this stuff. We talk to all these people. We just have more of a behind the curtain look, which sounds good, but mentally not great.
Yeah, I was thinking about that at the gym today. This is like totally off topic, but I was like, man, you're like so skeptical and like negative, and maybe not in that sense. And I'm just like, I don't know if it's because we talk to so many people and you hear a lot of the pros, but you also hear a lot of the cons, maybe not necessarily on the podcast, but you just like get into this space and like, I don't know, sometimes I just like see stuff and I was like, I just don't believe that. Like I used to be like, oh man, how inspiring to do this much on Amazon or this much at whatnot. Or I'm like, I don't know if that's like really true. And that's like so bad to say because who knows, maybe they really are doing that. Or like you see people and you see numbers and all this other stuff. And you're like, dude, like I know you have like 4 partners. So that profit's like cut in 4. Like it's still impressive, but like what most people think is not, it's split in 4. So I think you just get very skeptical. And I don't know, it's because you're more skeptical. So it's like rubbing off on me. But I think it's been like super helpful though. And it's kind of kept me out of some other businesses or like shiny object syndrome. I heard this on a podcast and I listen to a ton of podcasts. And this one thing has like stuck with me. It might have been the corner office. Maybe. Anyway, he was saying that if like when you're entrepreneurial, like you go to a restaurant and you're like, man, if they would do this and that and offer this, like it'd be so much better if they would just do that. And you're like, oh, maybe I'll open a restaurant and do like all those things. But he's like, what you don't realize is they probably tried all those things. And there's a reason that they do it in this order. And you don't know that because they've done it for 20 years. And that's not to say that like you shouldn't like put a new spin on something or try something, but like most of the time you're like, oh, these people are so dumb. If I own this, I would do. And it's like they probably tried to do that. Or like it's like, oh, you should just go sell on Walmart, right? So easy to like go do that. But from selling on Amazon, like there's all this bad shit that's gonna happen. And you're like, oh, I would do this different. Or like, or coaching or whatever. It's like, well, I would never do a high ticket. I would only do low ticket. And then you're like, well, someone probably did that. And there's a reason why they only do high ticket now. And we would say we only would do high ticket because we've done low ticket. We've run 3 like free groups. Like we know why that sucks. And like, no matter how you spin it, it's just better to do high ticket. So I think that's always a thing where you're like, oh, I would do this different or that different, but the chances are someone else has already tried it and there's a reason they do what they do.
Yep. I think funny you thought about that today. I've been thinking about that over the last few weeks of just like how my brain has changed from doing this pod and just trying all these things. It's like I'm definitely not in a better place than when I was at the beginning. So what has went wrong here? Just overall, I don't know what it is. I'm still trying to, put a finger on it. But I think for a lot of people, and really, I would take this advice if you are struggling doing anything. turn off the podcast, stop watching other podcasts, stop watching us, stop following people. Like, just find something you want to do. Find like one guy, one mentor, and just listen to everything and just go do it and just go into it with no other thought other than I'm going to make this work. But I think when you get too many people in your ear, because the problem is when we do this, we do this twice a week, every single week, we're getting so much stuff in our heads nonstop, and we have to be engaged or the podcast won't be good. So we're like talking to these people, learning and like enticed by some of this stuff. I don't know if it's super positive on the brain. I think if me and you sat here and talked every week, it might be different, but maybe long-term it's good for networking. It's good for that type of thing. But I don't know if it's super good for our mental. If we would already have something that's killing it, maybe me and you both making like $100,000 a month or whatever, maybe it'd be a little bit different. And I'm not trying to make excuses either, but I just kind of can see where this is maybe seeping in. It's like we're constantly doing stuff, talking about stuff, but like we never have really a ton of time to just lock in and do something for a long period of time. Like I heard Hormozy say recently, like, what's stopping you from going in a cave for 6 months and seeing what you can build and come out? And I'm like, oh, I could never do that. Like, because I have podcast stuff I have to do. I have like relationships outside of this. It's like I couldn't even go into that cave and do that. So if you have the ability to just go into a cave, which is metaphorical, that just means like lock in, get you a small apartment, get an office building and just stay in there, sleep in there. Like all these founder stories, do it for 6 months. What would you come out as? Not watching content every day, but just working every single day. And then you don't have to like learn a bunch of stuff. You just have a direction, a guide that maybe you're following, a mentor you're following, and just do that every single day. There's no way you won't be successful. It's like, it seems pretty simple. 6 months seems like a long time, but it's really not. We're already 7.5 months into the year. So yeah, I think about that stuff a lot, dude. I don't know if it's super positive for our mental doing this all the time, but I don't know. I'm not upset. It's just,
Yeah, I would say the counter argument to that is I think we are able to skip a lot of steps because we talk to a lot of smart people. So like we could easily be like, you get to talk to someone for an hour, you get an idea like whether or not you'd want to do that business. Or like you see the pros, you see the con. So we don't have to try it. We could literally talk to someone and figure out, yeah, this probably isn't for me. Or like we get off the pod and then it's like, wow, like, when we interviewed Cody like 8 months ago or a year ago, like we both opened Walmart accounts and then like I don't know, maybe within 48 hours, like, yeah, no, this isn't the path or whatever for us. But then it just, you don't know what you don't know. But yeah, I think that is always hard too when we're talking to guests that are like absolutely crushing it and we're just like kind of trying to figure it out. Like we're doing well, but like we're not doing like on that level. And I know eventually, I think that's the hard part. It's like, will you ever? Right? You're always just kind of like, shit, like I've been doing this for 5 years now. Like I had a book business, I had a bulk book business, I did OA, now I'm doing AIP. Like shit, like what is it gonna be for me? And Hormozy recently said something. I think he said he had like 9 failed businesses before he came across Gym Launch. And I was like, okay, like I guess you have to like taste some stuff, do some stuff. Reselling sounded like an amazing, like it was like, I think one of the things we said on the other podcast, like you don't really get much from having a reselling business and there's not much you could take away. For me, like, I guess what I forgot to mention was like, well, I got to take money out of the business and live, not have to work a 9 to 5. So like, yes, that's a big benefit. But I feel like outside of that, it's like, man, like if I knew what I knew now, I probably would have never started reselling. I would have tried to tackle. I do think about that sometimes. Like maybe you should try to tackle a bigger problem because the upside, like, there's so much more work. But then, like, how much work is it to sell on Amazon? And then have to pivot to Walmart. And then have to pivot to this and then to that. Like if you just tried to solve a big problem, like, and not really seen anything for 5 years, and then like year 6, it's like, oh shit, like, I see this is starting to work and build. I don't know. That's kind of like just a random rant, but that's kind of how I think. It's like, maybe you should try to like work on something more complicated.
Yeah, but yeah, I think the one thing that keeps me going is like what you said there with the 5 years and the 6. Maybe you see like a lot of work. I haven't done super well with anything except for crypto, like a few months earlier this year, and yeah, for the people, I'm completely out of the crypto. I'm not even paying attention to it at all. And I think if you're thinking about getting into crypto, don't. Because I think that has done stuff to my brain too. Very bad. Like dopamine wise. I mean, you make $8,000 in 4 minutes and then you lose $4,000 in a minute. And like that type of stuff, I don't know if that is the best thing for your brain. Because it's very difficult now for me to do work that is not like super dopamine intensive. I don't think that's the best thing to do. And I don't think I should have done it. Now, if I would have got rich off of it, I'd be sitting here singing a different tune. But for the normal person, and if you don't have an edge, like I didn't have a specific edge that was making me money, I don't know if that's even worth it to do that. Now, the money is there. You can make $10 million in a year easier than anything else ever if you can figure it out. But what it does to your brain and your dopamine, I don't know how long it takes to recover from that stuff. And I definitely see that myself now of like, oh, I have like existential dread because I'm not trading every day getting dopamine. You think YouTube Shorts and TikTok is giving you dopamine problems? Try trading crypto. That will definitely give you dopamine problems. But anyways, my point of that was I think that the only thing that keeps me going hardcore right now, of just like I got to keep trying stuff, I got to keep doing stuff, is just knowing, and I can't unsee this, that I can make loads of money really, really fast. And if you're, and I'm always a proponent of it being a vertical where you can make tons of money really fast. And if you're not, I do think you're like largely wasting your time because you could just have a job. So I think if there's no exponential upside to what you're doing in any way, shape, or form, I don't know if it's even worth it. But I keep trying to think of that, of like, no matter what I do, if I can start ripping on Whatnot really fast and I can launch my own program and I know I can make like $100,000 in a week, I know that there is that potential, and that's not super far away. That could be like 1 or 2 months away. That's as simple as that is. So stuff can happen really fast, but you just have to stay in the game, be in an avenue where that can happen. And if you're not, I don't know. That's what I'm like. I got to stay away from that type of stuff because, I don't know if it's worth the time. You got to be able to make a lot of money.
Yeah, I think now that I'm like thinking through this, like one of the reasons I think it's like so difficult is like Hermosi was talking, is like you never start from scratch. So when you never start from scratch and you know a bunch of stuff, it makes it so much harder to pick the next thing. Because you already know the downsides, the upsides, and you can just make all these assumptions. So like you kind of don't try, I guess you could say. But so it makes it harder to find that, I guess, edge or the thing that you're willing to commit to. And I think one of the things and we're seeing this, where you're probably not, but like I'm seeing it from like resellers. It's like Walmart is like a total nosedive at this point. Like that was supposed to be the savior. And I've said it before in this podcast. I was like, I hope this is not true, but I think it goes to shit twice as fast as Amazon does because everyone's going over there. And I think it's similar to what we were just talking about. It's like Walmart's probably like, we're not going to charge a fee. We're going to let people sell anything. We're not going to have ungates. And it's like, oh, like this is why Amazon does that. Like we should probably start doing that. And like we're seeing 50, you have to 50 things to get ungated. Like people just got suspended for a stupid glitch. Like you can't sell the vitamins and toys and all this shit now. And it's like, well, here we are. So I think there's always stuff like that where it's just like, wow, like I don't know if it's like scary or things are just changing. Like for me, it just seemed crazy that like, oh man, all I have to do is sell on Amazon. All I have to do is sell books on Amazon, and like I can make a living. I could just do OA. And now it's like, bro, you need to be on like 3 or 4 different platforms. And like you have no idea what's going to happen. And then like what does that mean? That's like 3 or 4 different sets of softwares, 3 or 4 different things to track. Like it's just an absolute nightmare. And I think a lot of people are seeing that, and it's like, like what the hell am I gonna do? Like what is that other opportunity? Or do you just have to do all 4 or 5 platforms? And it's like, well, do you want to do that? Like, I don't know.
I mean, on the Walmart stuff, dude, people are just retarded. Like, I think people just have no clue. Like, I'm not some super genius when I'm here talking about, like, I predict these type of things and then these things play out like very close to what I'm predicting. It's not because I'm some genius or I'm some fortune teller in the future. It's because all of these things work on similar patterns in market cycles and the way and you could just like reverse the math. And if you're not super invested into what is going on, like you don't have your brain's not giving you some incentive to lie to itself. so you're not, harming you don't want to put yourself in fear. So if you're selling on Walmart and I say, hey man, I could see Walmart going like this is probably what's going to happen. And you go, well, I make $5,000 a month from Walmart. There's no way that can happen. Your brain will lie to you and say, no, that guy's just wrong. But I don't look at it like that because I'm not invested into any of these things emotionally. If you just look at it from a logical standpoint, that was going to happen. That's just how the things work. What did you think was going to happen? And on the whatnot, I'm really big on the whatnot thing right now. I'm not under the assumption that there will be no more fees added to whatnot, that it will not become way more difficult to sell. Obviously it will. It's just these companies start these things and they obviously open incentives for everyone to do this and make it really, really easy. And they clamp down as they acquire more market share and they acquire more fees on the back end. Like everything starts free. Like I said recently, I got a Peloton and I'm trying to hook up a different thing to the Peloton. So I'm between two different platforms to use on the Peloton. One is called Z-Swift, and it's the biggest bike racing app in the world, the indoor bike racing app. And it's $20 a month or $200 a year. It's been around for a pretty long time. There's this other app that's happened in the last few years called My Whoosh. And this is in Saudi Arabia, funded by Saudi Arabia, and it's free. And it's like better than Z-Swift in a lot of aspects. There's some things they're still lacking and there's less users, so it's not as easy to get into a race or get into a class or whatever, but it's free. And there's no charges in the app. Now, am I under the assumption that My Whoosh will always be free? No, dude. How is that even possible? They're not even making any money from the app. I mean, they could be like laundering money, but I doubt that's happening. So what they're doing is they're acquiring the most users possible for free, where everybody's like, get off Z-Swift, come over to My Whoosh. This is better. Eventually, My Whoosh will go, hey, we're going to charge $10 a month. That's it. We just have to start making some money. And then it's like, okay, well, it's still half the price of Z-Swift. And then boom, now they charge $20 a month. Well, now it's the same price. I think the graphics are a little better still on Z-Swift. And now it's more, and then you just think, okay, well, this just the same thing happened. This happens in every market, whether you're talking about a bike racing app or you're talking about an online platform. And I think people just don't understand that stuff happens. But if you got to understand business, you got to understand like the market cycle, you got to understand how this stuff works, or this stuff will just hit you blindly. I haven't paid much attention to what you're saying about the Walmart stuff on Twitter, but I've saw a bunch of people ranting about it. And I'm just like,
well, I think I think most of it gets sticky. Like, it'd be easy, kind of like where you said, like, if you were in a cave and you literally sat down and analyzed your business, don't look at anyone else, and you're just like, okay, like, here's what's happening. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Because, like, what happens is you go, and I've done this, like, and I still do this. You go looking for reasons why it's still a good idea. And then you're going to see some, info seller being like, it's fine. Like, everyone else is going to quit, and then it's going to be a gold mine. Like, just hang in there. Or this person does this despite all this. And it's like, yeah, dude, that's like one person out of like millions and millions of sellers. But you see that, you're like, I'm going to be like that guy. I thought I was going to be like freaking Amazon lit eventually and like have this huge warehouse and all this other shit. And it's just like, bro, like, then you get in it and you realize like what it takes, or like, I don't know, I've never been happier than the decision I made to like really go content only. Like, I'd be so stressed out right now if I had to do Walmart and just Amazon and like kind of navigate these waters. Like, how the hell do you prepare for like Q4? Like, not knowing if you're going to be able to sell toys, or like they just shut it off tomorrow. It's just absolutely crazy to me. And then it's just, so I think people really get, as you like to say, like lost in the sauce, where it's just like, where like you're just repeating these like messages. Like, I saw someone post the other day, I don't know how, I'm not gonna like say it, but basically they're like, oh, I met with Amazon and they're gonna make the ungating process easier. And it's like, I don't know, like, how true is that? And it's like, it will be easier if you use this software that I own. It's like, like, but everyone's like, oh, great, man, like, thanks so much. And it's like, do you not just see what happened there? It's like, if you use their shit, like, you don't find that weird? Or like, maybe I'm just like a conspiracy but it was just like, okay, like, that sounds good on paper, but like, only through their thing? Like, what sense does that make? Like, it's so, I think like you just see these little carrots and you're like, oh yeah, and then it's just like, oh yeah, it's still a good opportunity. And it's just like, you would just sit down and analyze. Or I've said it before, like a couple podcasts ago, like, just ask, is there a way I can make the same amount of money I am making reselling? For someone like Sadiq, no. For most people making like an extra 1 to 2K, probably. But like, you have to decide like if that's what you want to do. Now, if you love doing it, that's a whole different story. But I really, really think that everyone should like sit down and kind of do like the cave thing. Like, don't log on to social media for a week and like see how it feels. When I went on, I forgot where we were. Whenever I travel, I'm like really not on social media that much. So it was just so relaxing. It's like, I have no idea what's going on in the world, and it's like amazing. But then you get back and you're like, oh,